Chapter 419, 7 Meridians Vicious Bear. What's going on? Are the two tiger head beasts sick? Sick my head. Can't you tell? It's obvious that they're intimidated. After the other party said that if you all don't fall, I won't be able to proceed on with the trial, those two fellows immediately dropped from fright. After a moment of silence, an uproar burst in the area. They had seen savage beasts fighting resolutely against an opponent to their last breath. They had seen arrogant savage beasts who disregarded all that came their way. But they had never seen a savage beast who played dead even before the fight began. How scared are you both of that fellow? Without making a move, he made the ferocious tiger head beast so scared that they chose to play dead? Luo Tang and Fang Jin nearly bit their own tongues. Wasn't this way too exaggerated? Those were tiger head beasts, incomparably ferocious animals. They were existences who dared to bare their fangs against Jizuan realm experts. Yet, after witnessing a single punch, they immediately fell to the ground and allowed saliva to trickle from their lips. Can you all be any more shameless than that? Whatever happened to the pride of a savage beast? The backbone of the dictator of the forest? The disposition of a Zhongshu realm pinnacle? Luo Tang and the others felt as though their worldly horizons were being pushed to new boundaries. 10 minutes ago, they prided themselves on being invincible in the art of beast taming in Xianyuan Kingdom. However, upon seeing Zhang Xian, they realized how insignificant they were. Despite inducing complete submission among a group of whirlwind wolves within a few breaths, that fellow kicked them away as though they were nothing. All right, you might not necessarily need them, so I will grudgingly overlook it. But, to scare a tiger head beast into playing dead with a single word, isn't that way too exaggerated? If it were me, what would happen? Putting himself in the other party's situation, Luo Tang immediately burst into tears. If he was the one facing the three tiger head beasts, he would probably immediately fall to the ground and play dead upon hearing the other party's howl. Before this, he thought that Hall Master Feng and the others were going overboard praising this fellow. However, only now did he know that there was a world of a difference between this fellow and him. I won't be able to do so either. Fang Jin shook his head with a bitter smile. Even as a half-Shizuan expert, he didn't stand a chance against three tiger head beasts at once. Under such circumstances, the best he could do was to run as far as he could. Subduing and taming it were completely out of question. The tiger head beast's defense is strongest at its abdomen, but it's also where its strength originates from. Through striking at that spot with pure brute strength, that lad instantaneously destroyed its biological structure, resulting in its nausea and powerless. Seeing that sight, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen widened his mouth in shock. It took him a long moment before he recovered. After seeing the sight, the two remaining tiger head beasts knew that the same plight would befall them if they were to be struck. Once a savage beast loses its fighting prowess, it would be no different from dead. No matter how foolish they might be, it was clear what they should do. The primal instincts of a savage beast also taught them to avoid the strong. When facing a being far stronger than itself, even the most arrogant savage beast would back down. Indeed. However, to achieve this, one needs to possess more than brute strength. Above that, one has to have a complete understanding of the physique of a tiger head beast so as to instantaneously determine the point of weakness among the muscles, bones, and meridians amidst its huge abdomen before one can subdue it with a single blow. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing was also stunned. Those were tiger head beasts. Even with his current strength, it was still impossible for him to instill so much fear in them with a single blow that they would play dead. This was no longer just a matter of possessing immense brute strength. Only those who possesses complete understanding of the tiger head beast, its habits, attacking pattern, physique, and such were able to do so. Only then would one be able to achieve such a feat so easily. Was he still a human? For a 2-star beast tamer who wasn't in his 20s yet. How in the world did he do it? If I'm not wrong, he probably has a tiger head beast as a tamed beast. After innumerable days and nights of companion, he managed to gain an in-depth understanding of the latter. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense at all. After thinking for a moment, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen eventually spoke up. It was impossible for such knowledge to appear from nowhere. It was only through books and practical experience that one could gain complete understanding over something. Back then, there was a painter in the capital who, in order to bring out the spirit within bamboo, planted bamboos all around his house and observed them day after day. After 27 years, he managed to produce a masterpiece and made a name for himself. In order to better understand their tamed beasts, some beast tamers would choose to accompany their tamed beast day and night. Some even went to the extent of mimicking their actions so as to learn more about their habits. Through this, they were able to create cultivation techniques that complemented their tamed beast, and they were also able to earn trust from their tamed beast as well. Given that the other party was able to get the tiger head beast to admit defeat in an instant through means they were unable to think of, this could only mean that the other party's understanding of this savage beast had far surpassed them. Most probably, he had put a lot of effort into the study of tiger head beasts. And to do so, it was likely that he had tamed one. Indeed! Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded in agreement. Then, he glanced at the cage, and worry surfaced in his eyes. He might be able to pass this stage due to his deep understanding of the tiger head beast, but the third stage won't be that easy. For the third stage, he'll have to face the Half-Shizuan, 7 Meridians vicious bear. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's complexion slowly turned grim. This kind of savage beast is extremely rare, and it's nearly impossible to tame it. Thus, it's impossible for him to have prior knowledge of it. More importantly, it possesses immense strength. Even though its cultivation is only at Half-Shizuan, it's very likely that its true strength has surpassed 10,000 ding. The 7 Meridians vicious bear only has 7 meridians in its body, but it provides them with an advantage as well. To make up for the lacking quantity of meridians in its body, its meridians grew thicker, granting it with immense strength. If not for its slow movements, it would have been surely classified as a Jizuan realm savage beast. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded. The only reason why the 7 Meridians vicious bear was publicly acknowledged to be a Half-Shizuan realm savage beast was because of its lacking speed. However, in terms of strength, even Jizuan realm primary stage cultivators were unable to match up to it. In order to make up for the flaw of the 7 Meridians vicious bear, the area for the third stage of the 10 beast cage is made narrower. This way, its limited speed wouldn't become too much of a problem, and the challenger won't be able to circumvent it. Given the strength of the 7 Meridians vicious bear, it'll be difficult for that lad to get by using the 2 techniques he used for the previous 2 stages. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen said. Even though Zhang Xian had passed the first 2 stages easily, there was a possibility that he might have prepared specially for them in advance. If he had studied the flaws of the 2 savage beasts intensely beforehand, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to pass the 2 stages. But the third stage was different. Due to the narrow area, it would be difficult for one to escape from the assault of the 7 Meridians vicious bear. On top of that, the flaw of the 7 Meridians vicious bear was on its back, and given the limited area, it was impossible for one to sneak to its back and strike it. Thus, one would be forced to face it straight on. It was one thing if Zhang Xian's cultivation equaled with it. However, not only was the savage beast's cultivation one small realm higher than Zhang Xian, he also had to face 2 at once. The difficulty was unimaginable. It was not an exaggeration to say that there was no hope of victory. Most probably, his challenge will come to an end here. Jiang Nanping's tightly clenched fist slowly released. It was true that the other party had shocked him with his feat with the tiger head beasts. But the 7 Meridians vicious bear was different. Given the narrow space, one could only face it in a battle of strength. Without sufficient strength, losing was inevitable. From the battle between the young man with the whirlwind wolves, it was clear that he was more adept in swift movements. Such cultivators often lack strength. After all, it was impossible for one to be skilled in everything. Even a Jizuan realm primary stage cultivator would be unable to subdue a 7 Meridians vicious bear. He'll surely be unable to withstand its attacks. Wei Yudao shared the same point of view. If the second stage with the tiger head beast could be described as dangerous, then the third one with the 7 meridians vicious bear would cause despair. Even with its slow speed, it was impossible for a Zhongshi realm pinnacle to triumph over it. Let's see what weapon he'll use, Jiang Nanping commented. Due to the overwhelming difficulty of the third stage, challengers were permitted to use their choice weapon from a selection provided by the Beast Hall. However, due to the confined space, one had to choose carefully. If the weapon was too long, one would not be able to move freely, and it would become a burden instead. On the other hand, if it was too short, it would be difficult to deal significant damage to the massive body of the 7 meridians vicious bear, thus rendering it useless. If one didn't choose wisely, it would almost be equivalent to forfeiting. He's already in front of the weapon rack. I guess he'll probably use a hammer or something similar. It allows him to launch powerful blows, and it is easy to use as well. I think it should be a sharp dagger or something of the sort. It'll be much easier to use them. The duo stared fixedly at the young man below as they spoke their conjectures. However, before they could finish their words, the sight below caused them to freeze. The youngster below simply walked past the weapon rack as though he didn't see it. He didn't choose anything? What does this mean? It can't be that. He intends to face the 7 meridians vicious bear barehanded? Barehanded? Is that fellow mad? The 7 meridians vicious bear was known for his immense strength. Through the skillful utilization of one's weapon, one might still stand a chance. But barehanded, how could he possibly win? This was no different from smashing an egg on a stone. This was courting death. It's beginning. It's too late to choose a weapon now. Just as the duo were shocked, the young man below had already walked into the attacking radius of the 2 7 meridians vicious bear. Roar! Roar! 2 massive figures blocking the narrow passageway of the cage entirely roared furiously as they stared at the young man in savagery, as though they would tear him apart. Not only does the 7 meridians vicious bear possess immense strength, its defense is also top-notch. Under such circumstances, the narrow space is truly advantageous to it. This stage is a little tricky, Zhang Xian muttered as he looked ahead. There was a lot of information on the 7 meridians vicious bear within the books that he assimilated to his head, and thus, he knew how fearsome and powerful these 2 fellows were. If he hadn't cultivated the Heaven's Path Golden Body to Dan, he would surely find it difficult to face them. But now, they didn't mean much to him. As for weapons, the spear art, sword art, and saber art that Zhang Xian learned were way too sharp and powerful. If he were to accidentally kill the other party in the midst of the battle, wouldn't the Beast Hall come after him? Even in Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall, half-Shizuan savage beasts were rare. Alright, I should hurry up. I still want to gather a few more drops of spirit beast blood essence. Shaking his head, Zhang Xian dashed forward. In the blink of an eye, he was already standing right before a 7 meridians vicious bear. Then, with both of his hands, he grabbed the arm of one of the massive fellows. Rise! Howling furiously, Zhang Xian flipped it over. What's this fighting method? Wei Yudao, Jiang Nanping, Hall Master Xie Jiuqin, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing, and the others were dumbfounded by the sight. Chapter 420 I Want to Challenge 10 Beasts Cage 1. Roar! 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 The 7 meridians vicious bear was dumbstruck as well. It thought that dealing with a Zhongshi realm cultivator would be a walk in a park, but before it could even process what was going on, the fellow had already rushed up to him and flipped him over. What are you roaring for? The voice of a young man echoed before the head of the 7 meridians vicious bear smashed onto the metal cage. Pum 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 puh. Its massive body kept coming into intimate contact with the metal cage. Sometimes, it would be the left side of his head, sometimes it would be the right side. The continuous smashing left its head spinning, and it was on the verge of spurting blood. The other 7 meridians vicious bear clearly didn't expect this fellow to be so ferocious and powerful, bashing its companion around easily. It immediately prepared to charge forward to assist its companion. You wish to save it? Here you go! Before the other bear could charge up to the young man, a light chuckle sounded, and a massive shadow came flying straight toward it. It didn't have any time to react before it was struck squarely in the face, and the two bears came crashing to the ground. Do you two admit defeat? With his hands placed in his pockets, Jiang Xian casually walked over to the two light-headed massive beasts. Roar! The second 7 Meridians vicious bear bellowed once more, and prepared to counterattack. However, Jiang Xian simply shook his head, grabbed its arm, and started smashing it against the metal cage. Pung 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 puh. Large holes appeared on the ground and the metal cage. Gathering all of its strength, the first vicious bear, whose head was still turning from Jiang Xian's prior assault, weakly got to its feet, but at that moment, its companion, held by Jiang Xian as though a club, was sent flying straight into it. Pada! Not too long later, the two massive fellows finally caved in. They lay on the ground faint-headed, devoid of the strength to climb back up. Challenging me in a contest of strength? You must be jesting. Having cultivated Heaven's Path Golden Body 2 Dan, Jiang Xian possessed a total strength of 15,000 ding. No matter how strong those two fellows were, they didn't stand a chance against him. To render the tiger head beast who is known for its outstanding defense powerless with a single fist, and throw around the 7 Meridians vicious bear who is known for its unparalleled strength so easily. Is he still a human? Is he really just a Zongshi Realm pinnacle cultivator? The surroundings were completely silent. Everyone thought that the other party must have a screw loose to challenge the 10 beasts cage, but at this moment, it couldn't be any clearer that he had the power to back it up. What whirlwind wolves, tiger head beasts, or 7 Meridians vicious bears? Despite their fearsome reputation, they seemed no different from little chicks before him. They were sent flying about at his whim. His cultivation is really Zongshi Realm pinnacle, just that. He seems to be using pure physical strength. It took a very long time before Hall Master Xie Jiuchen could shut his gaping mouth. Previously, as the other party subdued his opponents swiftly through technique, he failed to notice it. But this time, the other party was clearly using strength beyond that of an ordinary Zongshi Realm pinnacle, and there wasn't even the slightest Jinqi disturbance from him. To think that on top of his understanding of savage beasts and outstanding eye of discernment, that lad's strength would be at a fearsome level as well. It shouldn't be just his strength itself. Given how he was so able to hold on to the vicious bear's arms so easily, he probably used some technique as well, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing said. Indeed. Even though the vicious bear's movements are slow, it is still a half-Shizuan savage beast, and it has adapted over time to make up for its flaws. To be able to render it unable to retaliate so easily, his grip probably isn't as simple as it seems. Most probably, he held on to the savage beast's acupoint to prevent it from exerting strength. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was already at a complete loss for words. Under normal circumstances, even if one were to grab onto the arm of a 7 Meridians vicious bear, given the savage beast's massive physique and overwhelming strength, how could it possibly allow one to throw it around so easily? Thus, it was highly possible that the lad had held onto the vicious bear's vitals with his grip. This vital was probably something similar to the Ming Men of human cultivators. Once grabbed, it would render it completely powerless. Hall Master, do you think that it is possible that he has been raising a 7 Meridians vicious bear? Grand Elder Wei Yuqing asked. Previously the Hall Master said that it was likely that the other party had raised a tiger head beast given his deep understanding of its physique. Given how that lad was able to find the flaw on the 7 Meridian vicious beast so quickly as well. Could it be that he had been raising one as well? Cough cough. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's face turned red, and he nearly choked to death on his saliva. It was common for a beast tamer to rear a tame beast at home, but a bunch? It wasn't like the other party was operating a zoo. How could he possibly be rearing whirlwind wolves, tiger head beasts, and now, a 7 Meridians vicious bear as well? He has passed through 3 stages already. Perhaps, this Jiang Xian may become the first beast tamer in our beast hall to pass the 10 beasts cage. Knowing that continuing on the prior topic would just embarrass him, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen chuckled awkwardly and changed the topic. There were people in the beast hall who challenged the 10 beasts cage before, but most of them couldn't even pass the second stage. Yet that lad was able to pass 3 stages as easily as though eating and drinking. Perhaps he might be able to do the same for the 4th stage as well. Indeed, Hall Master. It seems like you'll have to prepare a set of Spirit Beast Blood Essence. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing chuckled. The reward for a successful challenge of the 10 Beasts Cage was a drop of Spirit Beast Blood Essence. Given how easily the other party passed the prior stages, it was likely that he would succeed in a single go. By then, the Beast Hall would have to present the prize to him. Hee hee! Hall Master Xie Jiuchen stroked his beard and chuckled. If a beast tamer can pass the 10 Beasts Cage, that can only mean that the talents in our Beast Hall are becoming more and more formidable. It's just a drop of Spirit Beast Blood Essence, it's nothing much. Not only will I present it to him, I'll also announce that if any other geniuses were to pass the 10 Beasts Cage, they'll be entitled to the same prize as well, and perhaps even more than that. For the past 1,000 years, there hadn't been a single person who had passed Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall's 10 Beasts Cage. There were also very few successful challengers in the other conferred Kingdom Beast Halls. With this record, he would be able to keep his head up high when meeting the other Hall Masters. On top of that, he could also motivate the other geniuses to work harder. This matter was beneficial to the Beast Hall. Indeed! Understanding this point, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded. Just as he was about to continue speaking, his gaze suddenly turned grim. Look, he's about to challenge the final stage! At that moment, all of the spectators turned their gazes to the cage below. After rendering the 2 7 Meridians vicious bears helpless, Zhang Xian continued to proceed forward, and before long, he reached the final stage of the 10 Beasts Cage. Standing in front of him was Zhizuan Realm Primary Stage. Steel-Armed Gold Ape. Steel-Armed Gold Ape has a physique similar to that of a human, and this grants them agility and dexterity comparable to that of a human. On top of that, they possess superior strength, such that even a typical Zhizuan Realm Intermediate Stage cultivator would not be a match for it. Zhang Xian is probably in for a difficult battle. Hall Master Feng and Beast Tamer Wang glanced at one another, and they saw the worry in each other's eyes. To be honest, they had a good impression of this Beast Tamer Zhang. Even though he was capable, he remained humble, unlike Luo Tang, who went around boasting despite knowing nothing at all. The first 3 stages, the Whirlwind Wolves, Tiger Head Beasts, and 7 Meridians Vicious Bears, were only skilled in a single aspect. It was still possible for Zhang Xian to exploit their flaws to achieve victory. But not only did this steel-armed gold ape possess a high cultivation, it was also an all-rounder. It had nearly no flaws that one could make use of. Battling a Zhizuan Realm Primary Stage cultivator would be much less difficult than fighting against it. There's no need to think too much into it. Beast Tamer Zheng's strength has already surpassed our understanding. Maybe he might really be able to achieve victory. Hall Master Feng shook his head. A month ago, when he first met this Beast Tamer Zhang, the other party was only a Tongxian Realm cultivator. But in the short span of a month, the other party had already reached Songshe Realm pinnacle, and his fighting prowess was even beyond that of the half-Zhizuan Realm 7 Meridians Vicious Bear. His strength had already far surpassed them. They wouldn't be surprised if an expert of Zhang Xian's level were to possess such aces up his sleeves. Under the worried gazes of the duo, Zhang Xian walked up to the steel-armed gold ape. The steel-armed ape had watched how Zhang Xian defeated the other savage beasts, and it could tell that even though he was still young, he wasn't an easy opponent at all. Thus, without any hesitation, it immediately dashed forward without any warning to launch the first blow. Boom! As expected of a Zhizuan Realm Primary Stage savage beast, its might far exceeded that of the previous few savage beasts Zhang Xian faced. Before its fist could reach Zhang Xian, the shock wave from its punch had already ripped the air and the surroundings apart with sheer force. Powerful! Zhang Xian's face turned grim. He hurriedly faced it with a fist of his own. Pung! The 2 fists collided together, and both sides retreated several steps simultaneously. Zhang Xian was taken aback. He didn't think that the steel-armed ape would be able to stand toe-to-toe with his Heaven's Path Golden Body 2 Dan. Even though the previous savage beasts were famed for their fighting prowess, their true strength still paled far in comparison to Zhang Xian. Yet, the steel-armed ape was able to clash head-to-head with him, and this in itself proved testimony to its fearsome might. Hoo-hoo! That single blow seemed to have incited the steel-armed ape's excitement. With speed as swift as a bolt of lightning, it dashed toward Zhang Xian once more. Just like the rumors, it possessed far superior reaction speed and agility as compared to those of the same cultivation realm, thus instilling a sense of helplessness in those who stood before it. Pung. Clashing several times, Zhang Xian was forced to retreat continuously. This isn't good. That fellow is extremely strong, and his defenses are hard to break as well. Even a momentary lapse in judgment could result in my loss, needless to say, defeating it. Zhang Xian frowned. In the end, Zhang Xian's Jinqi cultivation was still at Zhongshe realm pinnacle. The only reason why he could face the other party was due to his powerful physical body. However, the difference between Zhongshe to Jizuan didn't just lie in strength. Currently, Zhang Xian's reaction speed still couldn't match up to Jizuan realm expert. This made it difficult for him to keep up with the other party's movements. If the other party was only a small cultivation realm higher than him, he could still use the Eye of Insight to deduce his next movement. However, the steel-armed ape was 2 small cultivation realms above Zhang Xian, rendering the technique useless. Given that Zhang Xian couldn't predict its next move, and he couldn't keep up with the other party's movements, with just his physical strength, it was indeed difficult for him to triumph over it. But of course, if this was a life-and-death battle, through using the Heaven's Path techniques, Zhang Xian could still kill the other party easily. Flaws! Knowing that it was difficult to defeat the other party barehanded, Zhang Xian immediately made up his mind. With a thought, a book appeared in the library of Heaven's Path. He quickly browsed through the contents of the book. So that's the case. After reading the contents, the edges of Zhang Xian's lips curled up. He might be strong, but it will be difficult for him to triumph over the steel-armed gold ape. Watching the battle, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing commented. As a Jizuan realm pinnacle cultivator, he was able to gauge the flow of the battle accurately. It was clear that Zhang Xian was in a disadvantageous position. It isn't just difficult, it is impossible. To think that despite clearing the first 3 stages so smoothly, he will fall here. It's truly a pity. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen shook his head in lamentation. He was looking forward to the first successful challenger of the 10 Beasts cage here, but in the end, it seemed like his hopes wouldn't be realized. Chapter 421 I Want to Challenge 10 Beasts Cage 2. Zhang Xian had probably learned some kind of incredible body tempering cultivation technique, allowing his physical strength to reach 10,000 ding, thus granting him the ability to challenge those beyond his cultivation realm. However, the steel-armed golden ape wasn't an easy opponent. Its greatest advantage lay in that it was an all-rounder. It had no flaws regardless of which angle one was looking from. Even though that young man wasn't weak, he didn't stand a chance at all. As the battle continued on, flaws would only start appearing in the young man's movements, thus providing the steel-armed ape an opening to strike at. In Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's view, if Zhang Xian didn't have anything else, his loss would be inevitable. It's truly a pity. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing also came to the same verdict, and he sighed as well. Just as he was about to speak, the edges of his mouth suddenly twitched. Hall Master. He didn't need to speak any further. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen had also seen the sight, and his face turned pale, and his eyeballs were about to pop out from their sockets. Unknowingly, the atmosphere between the man and the beast who were still fighting intensely below a moment ago suddenly turned amiable, as though they'd been buddies for several decades. The ferocious steel-armed golden ape, which was trying to tear Zhang Xian into shreds a moment ago, was currently patting Zhang Xian's shoulder with a brotherly look that seemed to be saying, "I'll cover you." Not only were the duo shocked, the other spectators were also completely bewildered by this sudden situation. What was going on? Just a moment ago, they were still trying to rip each other apart. Yet, in the blink of an eye, such a matter happened? Even if you two knew each other before, you should at least give some signs of it. What is with that sudden change in attitude? During the battle, I saw the young man whisper some words telepathically to the steel-armed golden ape, and the latter's attitude immediately changed. What words could he have said to induce such an abrupt change? Jiang Namping said in bafflement. Ever since he missed out on the first twist with the whirlwind wolves, he had been looking intently on the situation before, not daring to avert his eyes in fear of missing out a single detail. Thus, even though the change in the attitude of the human and the beast was swift, he still noticed some details. When the steel-armed ape had the upper hand, the lips of the young man quivered slightly, and it seemed like he had spoken some words telepathically. Then, the ferocious savage beast's attitude changed all of a sudden. I also saw it. But could one sentence really cause the attitude of the steel-armed golden ape to change so rapidly? This should be impossible, right? Even so, Wei Yudao was still puzzled by the situation. I also think that it's impossible, but have you seen someone taming whirlwind wolves into cute domesticated dogs just by beating them up? Have you seen someone who made tiger-head beasts play dead with a single punch? Jiang Namping argued. This. Wei Yudao's face stiffened. Honestly, if he hadn't witnessed this sight himself, he wouldn't even dare to entertain the possibility. Even so, he still felt doubtful about the situation. He wondered if the savage beast had intentionally gone easy on him, even though he knew that it was impossible given the fairness of the beast's haul. However, even if that fellow earned the goodwill of the steel-armed golden ape, it should be impossible for it to let him pass just like that. The steel-armed golden ape is the tamed beast of Eldayu, and since it has already promised to guard the final stage and prevent all challengers from getting past it, it should probably fulfill its responsibility. Taking another glance below, Wei Yudao still wasn't able to make sense of the situation. Even if that fellow used some trick to make the savage beasts in the cage go easy on him, it was impossible for the same trick to work on the steel-armed golden ape. After all, this was the tamed beast of Beast Hall's Eldayu. It had already given its promise to guard the final stage to its dying breath. That fellow might have succeeded in persuading the steel-armed golden ape against fighting, but this didn't mean that it would allow him to pass. Before Wei Yudao could finish his words, the crisp voice of the young man below suddenly echoed in the air. Brother Ape, I need you to step aside so that I can pass. The steel-armed golden ape nodded hurriedly, and without any hesitation, it immediately cleared the path. Then, it lifted its gigantic hands to bid the young man farewell. I think it just chose not to fulfill its responsibility, Jiang Namping said. Wei Yudao. Zhang Xian bade farewell to the steel-armed golden ape. No flaws could hide itself from the library of Heaven's path. The steel-armed golden ape was born with some deficiencies, and Zhang Xian had given him the solution to the problem. Putting aside giving way for him to pass through, even if he were to tell it to become his tamed beast at this moment, it would surely accept the request. As long as the savage beast hadn't been completely tamed and a contract wasn't established yet, there would not be any problems in changing owners. It was just like the situation with the viridescent eagle. Even though MOU had paid an exorbitant price to cultivate trust with it, it still betrayed her for Zhang Xian after a beating. Before long, Zhang Xian reached the end of the 10 beasts cage. Lifting his hand, he touched the wall at the end of the road and a brilliant radiance shone. 10 beasts cage trial, success. He has passed just like that. How long did he take? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen couldn't help but ask. This. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing's lips quivered and he said, Probably around half a tea's time. Half a tea's time? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's eyebrows twitched. Under normal circumstances, challenging the 10 beast cage would take 2 hours. A tea's time is equivalent to a quarter of an hour. And in half a tea's time, an eighth of an hour, the other party subdued 10 savage beasts and passed all 4 stages. More importantly, most of the time expended was spent on walking. Counting the time that he was facing the savage beasts, it adds up to a total of only several dozen breaths. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing continued. Passing the 10 beasts cage in half a tea's time was already an astounding feat. On top of that, to think that he only spent several dozen breaths against the savage beasts. If not for witnessing this sight personally, if his subordinate dared to report such a matter to him, he would surely have the other party punished for lying so blatantly to him. Hall Master Xie, does this count as a pass? Just as his eyes were twitching nonstop from shock, a young man walked up toward him. You've passed. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded vigorously. If this wasn't a pass, what could be considered as one? Then, my spirit beast blood essence! The young man stared at him. Let's head to the balcony on top. I want to present it to you before the crowd. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen smiled. It was a glorious affair for someone to pass the 10 Beasts cage under his leadership, so naturally, he wanted to advertise the matter. All right. Knowing the other party's motive, Zhang Xian nodded silently. Soon, the group reached the balcony. Fellow beast tamers and friends of the Beast Hall, I believe all of you have witnessed this young man's valiant challenge of the 10 Beasts cage. Upon reaching the balcony, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen took a jade box from one of the elders' hands, surveyed the surroundings below, and announced with a clear voice. Incredible! I wonder what that beast tamer's name is. He shall be my idol from now on. I shall work hard with him as my goal. With him as your goal? Don't you think that you are being a little too ambitious here? You'll only end up despairing in the future. In my opinion, you should just aim for Jiang Nanping and Wei Yudao. Or else, Luo Tang, Fang Jin, and the others will do as well. That makes sense. A commotion broke out below. Upon hearing the discussions, Luo Tang, Fang Jin, Wei Yudao, and Jiang Nanping, who were vehemently vying for the top spot a moment ago, turned red in embarrassment. If there was a hole in the ground at that moment, they would surely have dived in instantly. They thought that they stood at the very top of Xianyuan Kingdom, but with this, they realized that the other party was way out of their league. Clearing the 10 Beast cage in half a tea's time, such a result was sufficient to leave them in despair. According to the rules of the Beast Hall, the reward for clearing the 10 Beast cage is a drop of Spirit Beast blood essence. Since Beast Tamer Zhang has succeeded in the challenge, I'll present him with the reward now. How Master Xie Jiuchen's voice reverberated in the surroundings. He opened the jade box, and a droplet of blood swirling within a bottle appeared in everyone's view. It seemed to exude the majesty of an unparalleled expert, exerting a strong pressure on those within its vicinity. Spirit Beast Blood Essence. Beast Tamer Zhang, congratulations! Hall Master Xie Jiuchen presented the jade box over to Zhang Xian with a bright smile. On! Zhang Xian grabbed the jade box. His main goal at the Beast Hall was this, and having achieved his primary objective, he was in good spirits. From today onward, I hope that everyone can view Beast Tamer Zhang as their role model and cultivate diligently. The 10 Beast Cage trial shall always be open to all beast tamers to prove their capability. Knowing that this was an ideal occasion to promote the matter, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen stroked his beard and chuckled. No matter who it is, as long as one passes the trial, the Beast Hall will bestow a droplet of Spirit Beast blood essence to them. I believe I need not explain the significance of Spirit Beast blood essence to beast tamers. So work hard. As long as you give it your all, the sky is the limit. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen declared grandly. Honestly speaking, his words were extremely motivational. When everyone saw the reward, they saw the possibility of them standing in Zhang Xian's place. As soon as the voice came to a halt, an uproar broke out below. Many of the younger beast tamers had their faces red in agitation, and their hands were tightly clenched together. The Spirit Beast blood essence was extremely useful to both human and savage beast alike. Every single droplet was worth a fortune, and there was no beast tamer who could resist such a reward. Since someone else passed the 10 Beast cage, why can't I do the same? In a moment, a wave of excitement swept across the crowd. Hall Master, I would like to challenge the 10 Beast cage as well. I want to give it a try too. In just a few breaths, more than a dozen beast tamers had already rushed up to the tower. Seeing the motivated faces below, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded in satisfaction. Just as he was about to speak, the young man beside him kept the Spirit Beast blood essence in his storage ring and started staring at him intently. Hall Master, since everyone can challenge the 10-beast cage, it shouldn't be a problem for me to attempt it once more, right? The 2 drops that he obtained by Lin Ruotian only granted him a strength of 9,999 ding. He didn't even manage to reach Shizuan realm. Even if this single drop were to help him to break through his bottleneck, he would still be a far way off from Shizuan realm pinnacle. If he wanted to avenge Lu Chong, he needed to possess at least strength of that level. Thus, he needed much more Spirit Beast blood essence. What did you say? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was taken aback by Zhang Xian's question, and for a moment, he couldn't react. I said that. I want to challenge the 10-beast cage again, Zhang Xian said. You want to challenge it again? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's lips twitched. Didn't you just pass the challenge? That's right. However, you just said no matter who it is, as long as one passes the trial, the Beast Hall will bestow a droplet of Spirit Beast blood essence to one. I need a lot more Spirit Beast blood essence, so I would like to continue challenging it. Zhang Xian replied seriously. Continue challenging it? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's body swayed vigorously. You successfully completed the challenge in just half a tea's time. If you were allowed to attempt it again and again, wouldn't our Beast Hall fall into bankruptcy? Given how valuable Spirit Beast blood essence was, even Xianyuan Kingdom's Beast Hall didn't have too much of it. Indeed! Zhang Xian nodded seriously. He started taking out his fingers and started calculating. Don't worry, I won't get too greedy. Just allow me to challenge it another 20 times. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's body swayed, and he nearly fell over the railing of the balcony. Chapter 422, Nightmare Beast 20? And you said that you aren't greedy? Do you know how many drops of Spirit Beast blood essence is there in our Beast Hall? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's face was turning green. If only he'd known the intentions of this beast tamer Zhang in advance, he wouldn't have made his previous declaration so valiantly. He had just said that anyone who successfully clears the trial will receive a droplet of Spirit Beast blood essence, and this fellow immediately raised the topic. Why did it feel as though he was tricked? If he were to challenge it again and again, wouldn't the Beast Hall have to present him with Spirit Beast blood essence again and again? Even with the 1,000 years of heritage behind Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall, Spirit Beast blood essence was still an extremely limited commodity. If that fellow was allowed to do as he pleased, the Beast Hall would surely fall into bankruptcy. When other people challenged the 10-beast cage, even if they were able to clear, it would likely to be a close call, and they would often have to remain in bed for 3 to 5 months to recuperate. Yet this fellow passed the challenge as though he was just strolling in the gardens. Not only was he fine, he even managed to collect a group of savage beast minions. Just look at that, the sweetly smiling steel-armed golden ape was still waving to him continuously, and it seemed as though its hands would tear off at this rate. And not too far away, the whirlwind wolves were still staring at him with looks of desire. Desire your head. It had been a while since they were captured under Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's orders, but due to their arrogant personality, most of the young beast tamers were unable to tame them. That was why he chose to put it in the 10-beast cage as one of the stages. Yet, after a beating, not only were they not angry, they were stared at Zhang Xian with a look of desire. Did they really crave for a beating so much? He could already see that if Zhang Xian were to be allowed to continue on, at this rate, not only would the Beast Hall go bankrupt, all of the savage beasts within would also become his. What kind of monster was this? Since Hall Master has agreed to it, I'll go down right now. Honestly speaking, the 10-beast cage is quite an interesting challenge. Taking the other party's silence as consent, Zhang Xian prepared to leap down. He urgently needed the 20 droplets of Spirit Beast blood essence, and he had no time to waste. Since he had already decided on the matter, he planned to get it over and done with quickly. Wait a moment. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen hurriedly walked over to stop him. With an awkward smile, he said, "There's no hurry. You have just cleared the 10-beast cage, so you must be exhausted. Why don't you rest first? We can talk about it afterward." "There's no need for that, I'm not tired." Actually, this challenge is also a form of training to me, so there's no need for Hall Master to worry about me. Zhang Xian nodded. Worry? Who the heck is worried about you? I am worried that you would collapse the entire Beast Hall. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen hurriedly waved his hands. I know that Beast Tamer Zhang possess extraordinary talents in beast taming, and challenging it consecutively isn't a problem for you. But gathering so many powerful savage beasts isn't an easy feat. Even if you're not exhausted, you should allow the savage beasts to rest for a moment. Rest? Glancing downward, Zhang Xian asked. Are any of you tired? The whirlwind wolves, tiger-head beasts, and steel-armed golden ape hurriedly shook their heads. Look, they're not tired, Zhang Xian said. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen felt lightheaded. Say, how can someone as capable at beast taming as you lack EQ? Isn't my intention clear enough? I don't want you to challenge the 10 beasts cage. Why can't you get the hint? Cough cough, Beast Tamer Zhang. Perhaps you don't understand the Hall Master's words. What he means to say is that since you have already cleared the 10 beast cage once, you shouldn't challenge it again. There's not much significance to it like that. Seeing the conversation between the two, Grand Elder Wei Yiqing couldn't help but interject. I can earn a droplet of Spirit Beast Blood Essence every time I clear it. This is extremely important to me, Zhang Xian replied with a serious expression. Of course there is a significance to it. If not, I would not have been so bored as to travel this far just to challenge it. You! Grand Elder Wei Yiqing's face turned gray in frustration. He had tried to beat around the bush, but the other party revealed his intentions straight. How the hell can we continue talking if you are going to be just like that? Alright, I know that you'll definitely clear the challenge. However, the opportunity must be given to the other beast tamers as well. Thus, let's drop the matter. Unable to hold it any longer, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen waved his hands and made up his mind. This. Zhang Xian frowned. He'd learned about the 10 beast cage from a book in the Beast Hall, so he traveled the distance here to challenge it. He thought that if he could do it 20 consecutive times, he would have sufficient Spirit Beast Blood Essence to fuel his Heaven's Path Golden Body Tu Dan. Yet, the other party simply turned him down. It's alright if you don't allow me to challenge it as well. After a moment of hesitation, Zhang Xian glanced at the duo and said, I urgently require 19 more droplets of Spirit Beast Blood Essence. Regardless of whether I have to buy it or trade for it, I have to obtain it. You still need 19 more droplets? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yiqing glanced at one another, lightheaded. Why in the world would he need so much Spirit Beast Blood Essence? To boil a stew? Normal savage beasts would find it difficult to even absorb a single droplet of the blood essence. Yet you asked for 20 at a single go. Are you trying to build an army of savage beasts? It's possible for us to sell some to you. A single droplet of Spirit Beast Blood Essence costs 5 Spirit Stones. However, as you're a beast tamer, we can give you a discount and charge you 4 Spirit Stones. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen said. 4 Spirit Stones for a single droplet? Zhang Xian widened his eyes. Forget it, I guess I'll challenge the 10 beast cage after all. You all should hurry up and make preparations. He was also trying to find Spirit Stones to raise his cultivation as well. 4 Spirit Stones for a single droplet. Why don't you rob a bank? Grabbing onto his chin, Zhang Xian started to calculate. Since Spirit Beast Blood Essence is so expensive, after challenging the 10 beasts cage 20 times, I don't really need any more. If so, I can sell them back to you. If I challenge it 100 times in a day, I can earn 400 Spirit Stones. Continue that for a month and I'll have more than 10,000 Spirit Stones. The 2 leaders of the Beast Hall felt frenzied. Brother, must you be so determined to wreck our Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall? What kind of grudge do you have against us? Alright, enough. We can give 20 droplets of Spirit Beast Blood Essence to you, but we have a condition. Feeling so stifled that his chest was about to burst apart, an idea suddenly appeared in Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's mind. He gestured grandly and harumphed. If he were to allow the other party to do as he pleased, Not only would the beast hall fall apart, he would also become a laughingstock of the other conferred kingdom beast halls in the surroundings. A condition? That's right. Our beast hall has just captured a savage beast, but it's proving difficult to tame. If you can find a way to tame it for the beast hall's usage, we'll be willing to give you 10 additional droplets on top of your 20. But of course, if you fail, you are not to bring up the matter of challenging the 10 beasts cage anymore. 10 additional droplets? Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. All right, I agree to your condition. Judging by how the other party kept pushing the matter down, it would be impossible for him to continue challenging the 10 beasts cage. Since the other party had already raised this condition, he would be a fool to not accept it. 10 droplets were equivalent to 40 spirit stones. It was a profitable business to earn this massive sum just by taming a savage beast. If you don't agree to it, I'll take it as you have forfeited to it yourself. So, don't ever mention the matter of challenging the 10 beasts cage ever again. Yet to process Zhang Xian's reply, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen continued on. But halfway through, he suddenly paused, and his eyes slowly widened. What did you say? You agree to it? That's right. Why shouldn't I agree to it? Zhang Xian asked. But, do you know what savage beast you are going to tame? Why would you agree to it so readily? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was overwhelmed by so much shock that he was about to tear off his beard. Even a 3-star beast tamer, a Zhizuan realm pinnacle expert, like himself was unable to tame the savage beast, yet you agreed to the matter so readily? Initially, he was only thinking of using this matter to deter the other party from bringing up the matter of challenging the 10 beasts cage ever again. After all, since even he was unable to tame it, he didn't think that the other party was capable of doing so either. Yet, before he could finish his words, the other party had already agreed to the matter. Who cares what savage beast it is? Zhang Xian waved nonchalantly. Honestly, to Zhang Xian, the type or strength of the savage beast didn't matter to him. What he was concerned about was whether he could earn sufficient spirit beast blood essence. All right. Seeing how confident the other party was, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. The truth of the situation wasn't too far from what Hall Master Feng deduced. The reason why the beast taming competition was suddenly brought forward was to bring all of the geniuses from the various kingdoms over here to brainstorm on a method to tame that savage beast. Given how talented the fellow before him was, especially after seeing how he tamed a group of whirlwind wolves in the blink of an eye, perhaps he might really have a solution to their problem. As long as he could tame that savage beast, even 30 droplets of spirit beast blood essence weren't a big deal. Let's go then. I'll bring you to meet it. Coming to a decision, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen decided not to dawdle on. He called for an elder and gave him some instructions before leading Zhang Xian and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing to the depths of the beast hall. Knowing that this was an opportunity for him to earn more spirit beast blood essence, Zhang Xian hurriedly followed behind him without much hesitation. Teacher! Young master! Along the way, Zhang Xian met Zhao Ye, Sun Chang, and the others, who were waiting outside for him. Let's go together then. There weren't many things Zhang Xian needed to hide from these people. Thus, he invited them to tag along, and they soon arrived at a vast courtyard. The courtyard was surrounded with high walls that were around a dozen meters thick, similar to city walls. The interiors were slightly blurred, and with a single glance, one could tell that a formidable formation was set up within. The savage beast is just inside. I'll just say it first, it isn't too late for you to back down now. The group came to a stop right outside the courtyard. With a grim expression, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen said, The savage beast is actually a nightmare beast. Our beast hall paid a heavy price before we were able to capture it. Due to the hint of dragon bloodline it possessed, it has an extremely arrogant nature, making it nearly impossible to tame it. Nightmare beast? A half-transcendent savage beast? Zhang Xian was taken aback. Having assimilated the knowledge from the books in the beast hall, Zhang Xian possessed knowledge of the savage beast. It was known as the #1 strongest savage beast beneath that of spirit beasts. Possessing a hint of dragon bloodline, It wielded incredible strength. Even transcendent Mortal 1 Dan primary stage experts would find it hard to face. To think that the Beast Hall would actually manage to capture such a powerful beast, it was truly incredible. Indeed. This fellow has a ferocious nature, and it'll be difficult to even approach it. I can bring you to meet it, but if you find yourself stumped, just give up. Don't take the risk. But of course, once you give up, you mustn't bring up the matter of challenging the Ten Beasts cage ever again. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen raised his conditions. He was afraid that the other party would turn his attention back to the Ten Beasts cage after realizing that he was unable to tame the Nightmare Beast. If so, all of his efforts would be in vain. Let's go in and take a look, Zhang Xian prompted. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded. They found the entrance to the formation and led the crowd in. The courtyard was vast, and on top of the formation, a massive metal cage specially crafted by blacksmiths were laid out within. If a savage beast were to be trapped within it, it would be nearly impossible to escape. After circling around the courtyard, they finally reached the perimeter of the metal cage. Within it, they saw a 5 meters tall and 10 meters long massive savage beast lying quietly on the ground. Upon noticing the presence of outsiders, its eyes immediately turned red, and it released a deafening roar. Chapter 423 Ancient Beast Language. Its roar was so loud that it threatened to burst the eardrums of everyone present. Of the group, Yuan Tao, Sun Chang, and the others who had weaker cultivation jolted upon hearing the roar. Their faces paled, and their bodies swayed weakly from side to side. It seemed like they were injured just by the powerful roar itself. You all should leave first. Knowing that a powerful savage beast could kill one with its roar by itself, Zhang Xian shook his hands. Sun Chang, Yuan Tao, and the others hurriedly left. This is the Nightmare Beast. A grim expression appeared on Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's face. The Nightmare Beast was simply too strong, even he wasn't a match for it. If not for the sturdy cage, the unique formation, and the multiple layers of traps laid out in the courtyard, it would have already escaped. Spirit beasts possessed wisdom that was not inferior to a human in any way. Upon reaching this level, they could already cultivate on their own to raise their cultivation. Even though the Nightmare Beast before them had not reached the level of a spirit beast yet, it was not too far from reaching that level. On top of that, it possessed a trace of dragon bloodline, augmenting its already fearsome prowess. If not for the unique circumstances, it would have been impossible for the Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall to capture it. It's injured? Zhang Xian glanced at it briefly before frowning. On! Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded. The unique circumstances referred to this fellow being injured, thus giving them an opportunity to strike. However, judging from its rate of recovery, it should be able to fully recover in less than a month. If they didn't tame it within this period of time, it would surely escape from their grasp by then. This was precisely the reason why they went to the extent of pushing forward the beast taming competition just to try and find a viable method to tame it. Its internal injuries came from its failed attempt at breaking through the bottleneck of a spirit beast, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen explained. Zhang Xian nodded. That was indeed the case. Even without the Library of Heaven's Path and Eye of Insight, just based on his knowledge of savage beasts, he could tell this much. At half-transcension, be it humans or savage beasts, they would hope to take the one last step to reach a higher order of existence. This nightmare beast forcibly pushed itself to make that breakthrough, but it failed and a rebound occurred, reducing it to its current state. Unable to move, it could only roar to instill fear in its enemies. Otherwise, if a half-transcension savage beast were to go on a rampage, even a half-transcension cultivator would be unable to withstand its might. It would have been completely impossible for Xie Jiuchen and the others to capture it and lock it here. As long as you can find a viable method to tame it, we'll do it ourselves. If it works, we'll give you 30 droplets of spirit beast blood. Xie Jiuchen explained the terms of this exchange. Given that young lad's strength, it would be impossible for him to tame a half-transcension savage beast. Thus, he only asked for a viable solution. If he deduces it to be feasible, all of the 3-star beast tamers would cooperate together to carry it out. As long as they succeed, no price was too heavy to pay. If they were to tame a savage beast of this level, the strength of the entire beast hall would be brought to whole new heights. In contrast, 30 spirit beast blood essence wasn't a heavy price at all. Find a viable method? Not expecting the other party's request to be so simple, Zhang Xian was taken aback. Delighted, he gestured. All right, go over and knock that fellow out then. After I observe him, I'll give you a viable solution to the matter. The nightmare beast was too strong, so the Eye of Insight was ineffective against it. On the other hand, for the Library of Heaven's path to be triggered, the other party had to execute a battle technique, or be knocked out. Given how that fellow couldn't even stand up, it was impossible for it to execute a battle technique. The roar couldn't be considered as a battle technique as well. Thus, the only way to activate the Library of Heaven's path was to knock it out. Only then could Zhang Xian determine a viable taming method through its flaws. Knock that fellow out? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing thought that the other party might have some brilliant situation, so their ears were pricked to listen to whatever he had to say. However, after hearing those words, their eyelids twitched. That fellow possessed the dragon bloodline. Knock it out? They had to have the capability to do it first. Those of the dragon bloodline possessed outstanding recovery capability, and their defenses were far superior to other savage beasts. Even a half-transcension expert couldn't knock out a half-transcension savage beast easily, needless to say, them. You can't do it? Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up. Given that the other party couldn't demonstrate battle technique, and they couldn't knock it out either, this situation was a little tricky. You should think of another solution, Xie Jiuchen said. Zhang Xian scratched his head. There were many beast-taming techniques, but given how even the experienced hall master was unable to come up with anything feasible, how could he have any ideas? The usual method Zhang Xian used was to raise the other party's strength through the Heaven's Path Jinqi, but given the huge disparity in strength, the effects of the Heaven's Path Jinqi would be minimal. He wouldn't be able to earn the other party's goodwill through inducing such insignificant growth. My opinion is still to knock it out. After a long moment, Zhang Xian could not find any good ideas. Thus, he could only reiterate his stand. Xie Jiuchen and Wei Yuqing. Actually, we've also thought of a feasible solution, but we aren't able to carry it out. A long while later, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen suddenly spoke. Oh? Curious, Zhang Xian turned his gaze over. Since the nightmare beast attempted the breakthrough, it must know the method to do so. Such methods are normally left behind by ancient spirit beasts, and if we can find a beast tamer skilled in ancient beast language, he might be able to earn its respect. If so, it would be much easier to tame it, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen said. Ancient beast language? While beast tamers can converse with their own tamed beast, it is still extremely inconvenient for them to communicate with other savage beasts. Back then, Emperor Kong sure left behind a beast language scroll, and as long as one learns it, one would be able to speak with spirit beasts freely. This fellow isn't a spirit beast, but it's already extremely close to that level. On top of that, it also possesses a hint of the dragon bloodline, so it should be capable of basic conversation in that language. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to learn of the method left behind by ancient spirit beasts either. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's eyes gradually grew grim, and he spoke slowly. If there were someone among us who was skilled in it, we'd be able to converse with it, and know what it wanted. If so, taming it would be much easier. Zhang Xian nodded in agreement. There was some information on the ancient beast language through the books in Xianluo Mountain Beast Hall. However, there were very few people who were adept in it, and most of them were high-ranked beast tamers. This was precisely the reason why these beast tamers could win the trust of savage beasts easily, and make them listen to them. Does our beast hall have books on the ancient beast language? Zhang Xian couldn't help but ask. We do have some, but most of them are from a faraway era. On top of that, most of them are just the deductions of our predecessors, and we've no way of determining whether they are authentic or not. Xie Jiuchen shook his head bitterly. Even though the complete heritage of ancient beast language had slowly disappeared, some sounds of words still remained in circulation. However, these were useless by itself. Putting aside whether they were real or not, it was impossible to determine their meaning just by the sound itself. Countless predecessors of the Beast Hall had tried studying it, but most of the words originated from legends, and their meanings were lost. On top of that, some of these legends were fabricated, and it was impossible to discern truth from falsehood. Realizing the impossibility of the task, everyone eventually chose to give up on it. Hearing those words, Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. "Can you take me over to take a look?" Others might not be able to discern truth from false, but he was different. With the Library of Heaven's Path, as long as they were in written form, it was a walk in the park for him to determine what was true and what was false. Chapter 424, Bizarre Language 2-in-1. "You want to look at those books?" Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing glanced at one another in confusion. The ancient beast language sounded incredible, but its heritage had already been lost. The possibility of learning it through books was zero. Even if the content of the book was authentic, without a tutor to guide one, it was impossible for one to verbalize the sound out accurately. What made things worse was that each word of the ancient beast language had a special Jinqi circulation method to verbalize it. Without it, it was impossible to pronounce it accurately, especially with a human's sound box. Countless predecessors of the Beast Hall had devoted their lives in an attempt to decipher the language, but none had succeeded. Yet this fellow said that he wanted to browse through those books to learn the language so leisurely. Did he really think that he could master it just by reading through those? "On!" Zhang Xian nodded. "This." Hall Master Xie Jiuchen hesitated. Knowing the impossibility of the task, he tried to talk Zhang Xian out of it. "Studying the ancient beast language isn't something that can be accomplished all of a sudden. Without a proper tutor, I'm afraid that you might accidentally injure yourself. I'm just taking a casual look. If, by chance, I were to succeed, perhaps I'll be able to tame this fellow." Zhang Xian smiled. Hearing the other party insisting on the matter, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen frowned in displeasure. Given how the other party cleared the 10-beast cage so easily, his talents and strength were definitely top-notch. But why would a genius like him choose to do something so pointless and foolish? Do you think that the ancient beast language is something one can grasp just by reading books? If that was the case, there wouldn't be so little beast tamers who knew the ancient beast language. By chance. If it were possible to succeed by chance, they wouldn't be in such a dilemma. You must be jesting. Fine. Elder Wei, lead him there. Feel free to browse through the books of the Beast Hall. However, I won't tolerate you making a fuss over the 10-beast cage after this. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen said, suppressing his displeasure. All right. Zhang Xian nodded. Even though the Beast Hall had many savage beasts, it was still nigh impossible for them to gather a sufficient number of them for Zhang Xian to challenge the 10 beasts cage another 19 times. The reason why Zhang Xian insisted on the matter previously was to force the other party to compromise. After observing the nightmare beast for a while longer, Zhang Xian was still unable to come up with a better idea, so he decided to follow behind Grand Elder Wei Yuqing to the library. The books on the ancient beast language are placed randomly throughout the library. Feel free to browse through them. As the duo reached the library, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing gestured to the massive collection of books inside. He shared the same thoughts as Hall Master Xie Jiuchen. To think of learning the ancient beast language just by reading books. You must be dreaming. If it was that easy to take it on, beast tamers adept in the ancient beast language wouldn't be so valued. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing left with a look of disappointment on his face. Zhang Xian noticed it, but he didn't pay it any heed. In any case, he would prefer to be left alone here anyway. The Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall's library was much larger than that of the Xianluo Mountain Range branch. Countless books were placed upon tall bookshelves that extended all the way to the limits of one's sight. Since Zhang Xian was already here, he might as well just collect all of the books within. Thus, placing his fingers on the first book on the first row, he started running. Seems like he's still too young. His outstanding accomplishment has led to his complacency. Returning to the courtyard, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing shook his head. Considering how he was able to become a 2-star beast tamer, and could face a Jizuan realm savage beast despite his young age, it is no wonder that he would become complacent. But still, to attempt to learn the ancient beast language just by browsing through books, he is underestimating the occupation, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen said with a slight frown on his face. Initially, he bore great expectations of this young man. However, after hearing the solution the other party came up with, all of his goodwill for the other party vanished. Knocking the nightmare beast out. You must be pulling my leg. To tame a savage beast, one had to learn its habits, likes, dislikes, and such. Forcibly knocking the other party out would only incur its resentment. That fellow had a proud nature. It was already difficult to tame, and if they were to really knock it out, the possibility would probably drop to 0. Indeed! Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded in agreement. Let's not talk about him. How are the challengers of the 10 Beasts Cage faring? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen asked. While the group was tending to the nightmare beast, the 10 Beasts Cage had been busy as well. Many of the geniuses who came to Xianyuan Kingdom were stirred by Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's speech, and they were spurred to give it a try. I took a look before coming here, and the challengers aren't doing too well. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing flashed a bitter smile. After bringing Zhang Xian to the library, he took a look, and the sight he saw brought a bitter smile to his face. Beast Tamer Zhang had pummeled the Whirlwind Wolves and easily passed the first stage previously, even winning their admiration in the process of doing so. As though emulating his success, the first few challengers also charged straight at the Whirlwind Wolves. However, they ended up as the one being pummeled instead, and 2 of them were even nearly gnawed to death. One of the more formidable geniuses managed to get past the Whirlwind Wolves and proceeded on to face the Tiger Head Beast. He imitated Zhang Xian's strategy and struck the other party's abdomen. The result? His arms almost fell off from the rebound, and the momentary opening from that nearly turned him into a lump of meat paste. In less than an hour, more than 10 geniuses had already fallen. On top of that, the majority of them didn't even clear the first stage. Even the famous Jiang Nanping, Fang Jin, and Luo Tang had given it a try. A handful of them was even stronger than Zhang Xian, but they were still defeated in the first stage. Those wolves were obedient as though pugs before Zhang Xian, so the challengers didn't think of them as a threat. Yet, when it came to them, they showed their true might as predators of the forest. If it were that easy to clear the 10 Beast Cage, there wouldn't be no successful challenger for the past 1,000 years. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen seemed to have anticipated this result, and he shook his head in lamentation. He knew very well the difficulty of the 10 Beasts Cage. He didn't underestimate it just because Zhang Xian cleared it easily. On! Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded. At this moment, he suddenly recalled the matter and said, Right, the ruckus beast tamer Zhang caused by challenging the 10 Beast Cage is too great. I'm afraid that, even if we were to host the beast taming competition now, there wouldn't be much point to it. Oh? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen fell into deep contemplation. Beast tamer Zhang is young, and he meets the prerequisites for the beast taming competition. After he cleared the 10 Beasts Cage, his prestige has soared. Under such circumstances, there won't be much point in winning the champion's seat. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing smiled bitterly. You mean that everyone views beast tamer Zhang as their goal? So, even if we conduct the beast taming competition and someone wins the champion's seat, as long as the champion doesn't clear the 10 Beast Challenge, he won't be recognized by the masses? Xie Jiuchen came to a realization. If the jade that came before was too radiant, it would dull the glow of those trailing behind. This beast tamer Zhang was clearly such a jade. He cleared the 10 Beast Cage in a single go, breaking the 1,000-year record of Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall. Even if someone were to be hailed as the champion of the beast taming competition, as long as he doesn't clear the 10 Beasts Cage, the prestige of his achievement would surely be compromised. Indeed! Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nodded. This. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen smiled bitterly. Actually, it wasn't that he neglected this matter. It was just that, from the very start, he didn't expect that fellow to clear the 10 beasts cage, let alone clearing it so easily. Since that's the case, pass down an order saying that the content of the beast taming competition this time around will be the 10 beasts cage. Whoever passes the challenge will be the champion. After hesitating for a moment, Hall Master Xie Jiuqin continued. Also, check which branch does Beast Tamer Zhang belong to. If no one clears the 10 beasts cage, he'll be declared as the champion. All right. Wei Yuqing nodded. This was the only solution left. If Zhang Xian knew that he could win the champion's seat on top of earning the Spirit Beast's blood essence through challenging the 10 beasts cage, it would be hard to say what he would feel. However, at this very moment, a helpless frown was etched deeply on his forehead. After a day of hard work, he finally collected all of the books in the Beast Hall into the Library of Heaven's Path. Upon doing so, he thought that it should be easy for him to compile all of the ancient beast language books to create an accurate manual on the language. However, after taking a look, he finally understood why Xie Jiuqin and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing didn't think well of him. The predecessors had indeed left behind many books on the ancient beast language, and written in these books were their personal insights on the verbalization of the language. However, after verifying the contents with the Library of Heaven's Path, Zhang Xian realized that the words that were authentic numbered less than 10. How could one communicate with savage beasts with less than 10 words? To think that there would be only 10 correct words in several hundred ancient beast language books. It was no wonder that no one succeeded. With this level of accuracy in the ancient texts, it would take a miracle for one to successfully learn the language. Seems like learning the ancient beast language is impossible. Zhang Xian shook his head in disappointment. If he had mastered the ancient beast language through the Library of Heaven's Path, it would be much easier for him to tame savage beasts in the future. However, from the looks of it now, it seemed like he had underestimated the matter. The ancient beast language was a creation of Kong Shi, and if one could learn it that easily, there would not be so many stumped beast tamers in the world. There seems to be another book on the ancient beast language over there. Just as Zhang Xian was about to leave the library to convince Xie Jiuqing to knock out the nightmare beast, his eyes suddenly caught sight of a book lying in the corner of the room. It was a thick book with the word language written in an ancient script on its cover. As it was placed in a remote corner, he didn't notice it previously. He walked over and took it out. This book was around 10 fingers thick, and a thick layer of dust cloaked its cover. Its pages had a yellowish tint, hinting at a long history behind them. It seemed to have been placed here for innumerable years, unnoticed by any. Flaws! Touching it, a similar book appeared on the shelves within the Library of Heaven's Path. This isn't ancient beast language? Flipping it open, Zhang Xian was taken aback. Written within the book was the introduction of a unique language, as well as the way to verbalize it. However, there was a clear distinction between it and the ancient beast language. The book didn't reveal what exactly was that language, and the details provided by the Library of Heaven's Path didn't reveal anything significant about its origin either. There is a total of 3 correct words. Zhang Xian flipped through the book. There were thousands of words described in the 10 fingers thick book, but after verification from the Library of Heaven's Path, there were only 3 correct ones. Compile. Zhang Xian gathered all of the correct portions to form an entirely new book. I should try these 3 words first. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xian drove his Jinqi according to the circulation method derived from the book through the Library of Heaven's Path. Moo! A sound echoed, and the world around Zhang Xian seemed to tremor violently for an instant. At the same time, his body swayed, and the sight before him turned dark. What kind of language is this? How can it be so fearsome? The immense energy expenditure from verbalizing that single word had nearly knocked him out. He quickly took deep breaths to recover. Just verbalizing a single sound had nearly sapped his Jinqi dry. On top of that, his instincts told him that if not for his incredibly pure Heaven's Path Jinqi, even with the knowledge of the correct verbalization method, he wouldn't have been able to verbalize that sound. After studying the ancient beast language, he realized that even though it was difficult to verbalize the words, it wasn't too hard to speak fluently once one grasps the correct Jinchi circulation method. This logic seemed to apply to the mysterious language as well. But just verbalizing a single sound had nearly caused him to pass out. That was way too fearsome. It is said that the more formidable a language is, the more difficult it is to verbalize it. It will have a high requirement on the purity of one's Jinchi as well. Could this language have some kind of impressive background to it? Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. Even though he was bewildered by the existence of such a mysterious language, his bewilderment did little to dampen his agitation. Having read innumerable books, he knew that humans weren't the only race in the Master-Teacher continent. There were innumerable other races, and each of them had their own unique language. The more formidable a race is, the more powerful their words will be. At the same time, there would be a higher requirement on the purity of one's Jinchi to verbalize those words. On this aspect, Heaven's Path Jinchi stood at the top, even among the ranks of superior Jinchi. But despite this, Zhang Xian was still unable to sustain the expenditure from voicing out the words. What kind of language did these 3 words originate from for them to be so powerful? After studying it for half a day, he realized that he couldn't interpret the contents of the ancient book. In fact, he couldn't even read a single word. Thus, he shook his head and gave up. Given that I have only learned a few words, I can't depend on the ancient beast language anymore. Zhang Xian thought that he could return accomplished with the ancient beast language in his arsenal. But in any case, I should still try and see if I can hoodwink the nightmare beast with these words. It would be good if I succeed. Otherwise, I'll have to look for other solutions. Stretching his back lazily, Zhang Xian walked out of the library and headed toward the courtyard where the nightmare beast was housed. Even though he had only learned a few words through the Library of Heaven's Path, he was certain that these were authentic words from the ancient beast language. Perhaps he might be able to convince the other party with just these words. If, on the off chance, he succeeds, he would be able to earn 30 spirit beast blood essence immediately. Otherwise, he would have to find a way or another to knock the nightmare beast out. Beast Tamer Zhang. Soon, he arrived at the courtyard. Before walking in, he saw many figures walking anxiously about the previously remote courtyard. The huge group of beast tamers that he saw above when he was clearing the 10 beasts cage were all here. What happened? Zhang Xian walked in doubtfully, and he immediately saw 2 familiar figures amidst the crowd. Beast Tamer Zhang. The other party also saw him, and they walked up to him. Hall Master Feng and Beast Tamer Wang, why are you 2 here? Zhang Xian was perplexed. These 2 were the beast tamers from the Xianluo mountain range branch, Hall Master Feng and Beast Tamer Wang. Why are we here? Hall Master Feng and Beast Tamer Wang coughed. The beast taming competition has been brought forward, but we weren't able to contact you. Thus, we came here in advance. The beast taming competition has been brought forward. Zhang Xian blinked his eyes in surprise. If the other party hadn't raised this matter, he would have already forgotten the issue. Ever since arriving at Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall, he immediately rushed to the 10 beasts cage. Right after that, he went to the courtyard to meet the nightmare beast before busying himself at the library. As such, he had no way of knowing that the beast taming competition had been brought forward. Besides, he didn't explicitly agree to the competition then. Thus, he didn't pay much attention to the matter. You didn't know? Seeing the confused expression on the other party's face, the 2 great beast tamers swayed. I didn't. Zhang Xian confirmed their suspicions. But, you are the champion of the competition. The 2 beast tamers scratched their heads in frenzy. Are you for real? Just a moment ago, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen announced that Zhang Xian was the champion of the beast taming competition. He even specially visited them to offer his congratulations. Despite being the champion, Zhang Xian actually didn't even know that the competition had been brought forward. Can you get any more confused than that? Champion? What champion? Not only were the duo baffled, Zhang Xian was also bewildered by the situation as well. I don't even know when the competition is held. How in the world did I become the champion? The content of the beast taming competition this time is the 10 beasts cage. Of all of the participants, you're the only one who succeeded. So naturally, you became the champion. Seeing that the other party really knew nothing at all, Hall Master Feng could only explain the situation speechlessly. To think that even someone as confused as him could become the champion, he was truly speechless. For every single competition, the Xianlu mountain range branch would always go around searching for talents to vie for a good placing. Yet, they had never succeeded. This time, they managed to win the championship, yet the candidate himself didn't even know what was happening. I see. Is there any prize for the champion? After hearing that he became the champion just because he challenged the 10 Beasts cage, Zhang Xian was speechless. But soon, recalling something, his eyes lit up. Becoming the champion wasn't anything much to him. What he was more concerned about was the reward. If he could win 20 or 30 Spirit Beast Blood Essence, he could spare himself much hassle. The reward is 5 Spirit Stones. I have already claimed it for you, you can check on it. At which, Hall Master Feng took out a narrow jade box. Opening it, 5 Spirit Stones placed side by side appeared before Zhang Xian's eyes. Just these? Zhang Xian thought that he would be able to earn generous rewards by winning the championship. Yet, for the reward to be only 5 Spirit Stones, the Beast Hall was truly miserly. However, no matter how little the reward was, it was still useful to him. There was no reason for him to reject it. After keeping the Spirit Stones into his storage ring, he glanced at the surroundings and asked, "What's happening? Why are so many people gathered here?" Yesterday, when he came, a formation was set up here, and no outsiders were allowed to enter. Why did the situation become like that all of a sudden? The Beast Hall caught a half-transcendent savage beast, and they wished to tame it. However, they had been unable to find a feasible method to do so. The reason why they pushed forward the beast taming competition was to gather the hall masters, elders, and talented beast tamers from all around Xianyuan Kingdom here to brainstorm on a viable method to tame the nightmare beast. Hall Master Feng explained. The motive of pushing the competition forward was for this savage beast. Since the competition was already over, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen decided to gather all of the beast tamers here to brainstorm over this matter. This led to the current commotion outside of the courtyard. Oh! Zhang Xian came to a realization. It seemed like the other party didn't think that he would succeed in learning the ancient beast language. But it was no wonder why the other party would think so. Even with the prowess of the Library of Heaven's Path, Zhang Xian had only found a few correct words. It would take a miracle for anyone to learn the language through those books. Has anyone succeeded yet? Zhang Xian asked. No one has succeeded yet. A half-transcendent savage beast is too strong, the possibility of succeeding is extremely low. Shaking his head, Hall Master Feng sighed. Even a 3-star beast tamer like Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was helpless before the nightmare beast. How could normal beast tamers like them have any good ideas? Several ideas were brought up, but they were all refuted. Look, the genius Wei Yudao intends to give it a try. Wei Yudao? The genius who managed to reach the 3rd stage of the 10 Beasts cage yesterday? Yes, that's him. Just as the trio was talking, a commotion broke out among the crowd. Zhang Xian turned around and saw a youngster walking toward the nightmare beast in the metal cage. In front of the metal cage stood Hall Master Xie Jiuchen, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing, and a few other beast tamers. A grim expression hung on their faces. They also knew that it was unlikely for anyone to succeed, and they were already prepared for the worst-case scenario. Chapter 425, Allow Me. At this moment, the nightmare beast was currently lying lazily on the ground. It wasn't even angry, it just couldn't be bothered to lift his head to glance at the other party. Instead, it seemed to be using some kind of unique method to heal the injuries it had sustained. Hall Master, I would like to give it a try. Walking forward, Wei Yudao clasped his fists. Go on! Glancing at Grand Elder Wei Yuqing, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded. The grandson of his old friend had been blessed with exceptional talent for beast taming, and the other party had made a name for himself among the younger generation if not for Zhang Xian's abrupt appearance. Wei Yudao might very well become the #1 genius of Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall's younger generation. In any case, there was no better solution for the matter at the moment. If the Nightmare Beast were to recover substantially from its injuries, it would be impossible for the Beast Hall to confine it any further. Since that was the case, he might as well grant everyone a chance. Perhaps someone might just succeed. "Thank you, Hall Master!" Taking a deep breath, Wei Yudao walked up to the Nightmare Beast. With a flick on his wrist, a jade bottle appeared in his palm. Uncorking the cap, a dense fragrance wafted out, revitalizing everyone's spirit. "It's the 7-colored honey from the Cloud Mist Mountain. It's said that the Zomshire realm's savage beast Heaven Snow Bee concocted this honey from the nectar gathered from 7 different colored flowers. It has an alluring fragrance, and it's incomparably sweet. Even spirit beasts would find it difficult to rein in their craving. This thing is incomparably expensive and rare. Even with plenty of spirit stones at hand, obtaining it is no easy matter. Yet, to think that he would have an entire bottle of it. Since he is willing to take even that out, the Nightmare Beast should probably cave in." Catching a whiff of the fragrance from the jade bottle, a huge commotion was stirred in the surroundings. The 7-colored honey was formed by 7 different colored nectars. It possessed a fragrance that opened up one's pores with a single whiff. Savage beasts tended to be gluttonous. It would be difficult for the other party to hold back from such a delicacy. The 7-colored honey is ranked 5th among the 10 most favored objects of savage beasts. It is impressive that Wei Yudao was able to obtain such a good item. Not bad. Hall Master Feng's eyes also lit up. 10 most favored objects of savage beasts. There's such a ranking? Zhang Xian was taken aback. He had read nearly all of the books in the Beast Hall, but he had never heard of such a ranking. There is. Hall Master Feng chuckled. Actually, we only created this list out of boredom, and it isn't officially recognized by the Beast Hall, so it isn't recorded in any book. 7-colored honey isn't just fragrant, more importantly, it has the effect of nourishing and expanding a savage beast's meridians. Usually, if a beast tamer were to take out a single droplet of it, he would be able to induce complete submission in a Zomshire realm's savage beast. The jade bottle that Wei Yudao might be small, but there are at least several dozens of droplets in it. He must be truly determined if he is taking so many droplets out at once. Nourish and expand a savage beast's meridians? Upon hearing the effects of the 7-colored honey, Zhang Xian was astounded. The meridians of humans and savage beasts had a certain cross-sectional area. If one were to drive one's jinqi too quickly, it might cause one's jinqi to seep outward, resulting in severe internal injuries. Expanding one's meridians was equivalent to increasing the quantity of jinqi one could drive within a specific period of time. This quality made the 7-colored honey extremely valuable. Putting aside savage beasts, even the eyes of the cultivators in the area reddened in desire upon learning of the effects of the 7-colored honey. What other objects are there in this ranking? Zhang Xian couldn't help but ask curiously. If he were to know the most favored objects of savage beasts, it might help him in taming powerful savage beasts in the future. As it's unofficial, it's mostly speculation. The publicly acknowledged #1 object is dragon blood, #2 is the inner core of spirit beasts, #3 is ancient beast blood essence, #4 is godfall flower, and #5 is 7-colored honey. I see. Zhang Xian nodded. He had heard of the first 4 objects. The dragon tribe was incomparably powerful. If a savage beast were to possess the slightest trace of the dragon bloodline, it would be significantly stronger than normal savage beasts. Taking the Nightmare Beast for example, even though the dragon bloodline within it was so meager that it could be disregarded, it still granted it the potential to reach half-transcension. Just this in itself made the dragon bloodline a desired object that could send all savage beasts and spirit beasts into a frenzy. As for the ancient beast's blood essence, as shown in the Xianlu mountain range branch, it possessed the same effects as well. If used appropriately, it could induce a bloodline evolution in a savage beast. As for the inner core of a savage beast, it was something that spirit beasts nurture and cultivate day and night over a long period of time. It harnessed the essence of their cultivation and strength. If a savage beast could obtain it, even if it still wasn't able to make the leap to become a spirit beast, its cultivation would definitely be enhanced significantly. As for the Godfall flower, rumor had it that it could nurture a savage beast spirit. Of these 4 incredible objects, the very fact that the 7-colored honey could be placed at the 5th place proved testimony to its fearsome effects. Zhang Xian couldn't help but take a glance at the situation. As expected, upon catching a whiff of the fragrance, the lazy nightmare beast in the cage was stirred into action. It lifted its massive head, and a glaring radiance pierced from its eyes. It was clearly interested in the object. Grabbing the 7-colored honey in his hands, Wei Yudao confidently declared, "I know that you understand the human language, and you know our purpose here. As long as you swear to the dragon bloodline within your body to remain loyal to the Beast Hall, this bottle of 7-colored honey will be yours." With this object, he didn't need to resort to any ploy. He only had to state his conditions. Roar! The nightmare beast was initially rather interested in it, but after hearing Wei Yudao's words, it began to lie back down lazily. "I know that you've attempted a breakthrough to become a spirit beast and failed. The 7-colored honey can expand your meridians and heal your wounds. It could help you surpass your bottleneck, so why do you remain so obstinate? Besides, you're only pledging loyalty to the Beast Hall, not to an individual. If you do so, the Beast Hall will surely devote massive resources to your cultivation and your growth. I hope that you can consider this matter," Wei Yudao said. Even though his words were moving, the nightmare beast remained indifferent. There was no difference to whom it would pledge loyalty to. In its eyes, it was still becoming the puppet of the humans. Rather than being restricted, it would prefer to venture out and live its life as it pleased. "Seems like it's a failure." The crowd had finally seen a flicker of hope, but upon seeing this sight, their expressions sunk again. They thought that the 7-colored honey, ranked 5th on the list, could move the nightmare beast. However, they seemed to have underestimated the fellow's control. Even though the 7-colored honey is irresistible to ordinary savage beasts, this nightmare beast isn't too far away from reaching the level of a spirit beast. As such, its effects would be severely limited. On top of that, as a proud bearer of the dragon bloodline, how could it serve the humans for just a bit of 7-colored honey? Among the crowd, a 2-star pinnacle beast tamer commented, "Indeed. The dragon tribe is one of the strongest tribes in the continent, and they have the pride matching their standing. Even though this fellow's bloodline might be weak, it still won't lower its head to humans just over such small benefits. The only way for it to work is to offer it dragon blood." "Dragon blood? You must be joking. Do you think that it's that easy to find some? Putting aside how difficult it is to find a member of the dragon tribe, even if you managed to find one, it would be impossible to subdue it. Even the weakest of their members is a half-transcension, like this nightmare beast before us. It isn't a being that normal beast tamers like us can hunt down." A commotion broke out. The beast taming competition had gathered dozens of hall masters and elders from the surrounding kingdoms. To be able to become the head of their organizations, their eye of discernment and knowledge far exceeded that of ordinary beast tamers. The 7-colored honey was valuable, but it wasn't sufficient to make a savage beast with a hint of dragon bloodline lower its head. "My apologies." After a moment of persuasion, the nightmare beast still remained unmoved. In the end, Wei Yudao could only retreat in defeat. "Is there anyone else who likes to try?" Expecting this outcome, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen sighed. Turning to the crowd yet again, he asked. Silence. Initially, after hearing this news, many people were tempted to give it a try. However, after seeing the 2-star pinnacle and 3-star primary beast tamers falling in defeat, the others lost their courage as well. "Allow me!" Suddenly, a faint voice broke the silence. "It's beast tamer Zhang Xian! Since he managed to clear the 10-beast cage so easily, he must have a deep insight into beast taming. Perhaps, he just might succeed. I don't deny that his beast taming skills are incredible, but his cultivation is way too low." "That's true. It's already a formidable feat for a beast tamer to tame a savage beast 1 or 2 small cultivation realm above him. He is only at Zhongshi Realm Pinnacle while the other party is at Half Transcension. That's a total of 6 small cultivation realms. It's impossible for him to successfully tame it. Indeed. If he were at Zhizun Realm Pinnacle, it might still be possible. But given his current strength, I don't think that he'll succeed. After identifying the source of the voice, the crowd flew into an uproar. Zhang Xian's feat of clearing the 10-beast cage had awed everyone in the beast hall. Thus, almost everyone here had heard of his name. His appearance had generated hope in some, but most simply shook their heads grimly. Beast taming wasn't just about technique, strength also played a major role. If one's cultivation realm differed too much from the savage beast, it would only look down on one. Given the lack of respect, how could it possibly allow one to tame it? I've heard that he came here to give it a try after clearing the 10-beasts cage yesterday, but he failed. Then why is he still volunteering again? Does he have a better idea in mind? I don't know. Let's wait and see then. There were some who knew that Zhang Xian had already attempted yesterday. Even though they didn't know what had happened, given that the nightmare beast hadn't been tamed yet, it was clear that he had failed. You succeeded in learning the language? Upon seeing Zhang Xian, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's eyes lit up. That fellow ran to the library, claiming that he was going to learn the ancient beast language. Yet he appeared here today. Did it mean that he had succeeded in learning the language? Succeed? I'm still far from that. Zhang Xian shook his head. It wasn't that the ancient beast language was too difficult, but that the level of this beast hall was simply too low. There were insufficient books here for the Library of Heaven's Path to work its wonders. Then, hearing Zhang Xian admit that he was still far from success, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was baffled. I've only learned a few sounds, so I would like to give it a try. If it doesn't work, we can try the method I mentioned the previous time, Zhang Xian said. The method you mentioned? Hearing those words, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen fell speechless. Given how that fellow ran off to the library to study, he thought that he had given up on the idea. To think that he was still harboring those thoughts. Chapter 426. The Might of the Mysterious Language. The ancient beast language is expansive and profound. It's impossible to succeed just by learning a few sounds. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing interjected. The other party said that he would study the language, and he cooped himself within the library for an entire day. Despite everything, Wei Yuqing still bore some expectations of the other party, yet he returned saying that he had only learned a few sounds. Are you here to amuse us? Even if you had learned the entire ancient beast language, it still remains an uncertainty whether that fellow will listen to you. With just a few sounds, do you think that the other party will bother with you? You must be joking. Given Zhang Xian's declaration of "let me try," they thought that he was very confident of the matter. Yet, to think that he was here just to cause trouble. Seemed like even top geniuses weren't reliable either. If it doesn't work, you all should just think of a way to knock it out. Honestly speaking, Zhang Xian did not have much confidence either, given that he had only learned a few sounds. We'll talk about that later. You should give it a try first. Afraid that the fellow would continue pestering him on the matter, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen hurriedly interjected. What the heck is going through your mind? Just because you managed to tame the whirlwind wolves by pummeling them, do you think that the same method will work again? This is the nightmare beast, a top-notch savage beast possessing the dragon bloodline, a proud and noble existence. Even if you were to beat it to death, it would not lower its head to you. If it were that simple, they would have long done it. All right. Sensing the other party's reluctance, Zhang Xian decided to give it a try first. Thus, he took 2 steps forward to the nightmare beast. The massive savage beast was nonchalant to Zhang Xian's presence. It didn't even bother taking a glance at him. He's starting. Wei Yudao clenched his fists tightly. He had even gone to the extent of taking out the 7-colored honey, but it proved to be useless. What kind of solution would the fellow who managed to clear the 10-beast cage come up with? He stared fixedly at the situation in front with widened eyes, fearful that he would miss out a single detail. However, in the next moment, his lips couldn't help but twitch. That fellow didn't take out anything of interest to the nightmare beast, and instead, he simply frowned. After a long moment of struggling, a bizarre sound suddenly escaped from his throat. "Boo!" It sounded like lightning, and no one could understand what it meant. "This is ancient beast language?" Wei Yudao didn't comprehend the other party's bizarre action, but Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing's face immediately tightened. They hurriedly turned their gazes over to the nightmare beast. That fellow had gone off to study the ancient beast language previously, so it was likely that this sound was a part of the language. Even though it was just a single sound, there was an off chance that it might just work. Under the intense gazes of the crowd, the lazy nightmare beast suddenly opened its eyes. Then, it yawned lazily, lay down, and fell silent. "It is ineffective?" Seeing that it was completely ineffective, Zhang Xian scratched his head. Of the ancient beast language, Zhang Xian had only learned a total of 8 words. He had no problem reading or verbalizing it, but as the meaning wasn't written in the books, he couldn't tell what it was either. In other words, he only knew how to speak those words, he didn't know what they meant at all. Even if he were to voice out all of them, that fellow still wouldn't know what he was up to. The next one. Even so, it was still worth a try. Thus, Zhang Xian opened his mouth once more. "Woo!" It sounded like the call of an eagle, crisp and bright, piercing one's ears. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing hurriedly turned their gazes over, but the nightmare beast seemed to have fallen into a deeper sleep. With its paws cushioning its head, it lay comfortably on the spot. So, is it working or not? The duo stared at one another in confusion. If that fellow's ancient beast language was useful, why was there no response from the nightmare beast? But at the same time, the nightmare beast did at least adjust its sleeping posture, so whether it was completely useless or not. Could the sounds that Zhang Xian was voicing a lullaby? "I thought that you went away to learn the ancient beast language. Why did you learn a lullaby instead? What is the use of your lullaby? What I want is to tame it, not for it to sleep." "Gee!" Amidst their bewilderment, the young man before him voiced the third sound. This time, not only did the nightmare beast get into a comfortable sleeping posture, it even stuck its tongue out, and saliva was flowing out of its mouth. The heck! With just 3 notes, he managed to bring the nightmare beast into a deep sleep. The surroundings beast tamers were stunned. They thought that the young genius would use some kind of inconceivable beast taming technique on the nightmare beast. While their thoughts were spot on, it was completely different from what they were thinking. "Aren't we supposed to tame it? What do you mean by luring it to sleep?" Zhang Xian was baffled as well. However, upon seeing the sight, his eyes lit up. "This is good as well. If I can knock it out with these words, I won't have to waste my effort on trying to knock it out." Besides the ancient beast language, Zhang Xian had a backup plan. He could knock the nightmare beast out, and through the Library of Heaven's path, he would be able to determine its flaws and tame it. But it was a pity that Xie Jiuchen, Wei Yuqing, and the others refused to cooperate with him, and Zhang Xian wasn't a match for the nightmare beast himself. Thus, he had been unable to carry it out. If he could lure it to sleep through the ancient beast language, that would be perfect. Woo ya-hi woo woo! The more he thought about it, the happier he got. Thus, he voiced of the remaining words all at once. Hearing those words, the crowd immediately turned their gazes to the nightmare beast. This was especially so for Hall Master Xie Jiuchen. Anxiety could be seen in his eyes. However, with a single look, he suddenly felt a wave of vertigo striking him. The drowsy nightmare beast abruptly opened its eyes, and its massive body rose up. Roar! A deafening roar pierced through the heavens, parting the clouds above. The crowd and the surroundings felt dizzy-headed under the powerful roar. At the same moment, the massive head suddenly charged straight toward the metal cage. One! The formation immediately activated, sealing its movements. Even so, under the powerful charge, the sturdy metal cage was bent out of shape, and it seemed as though it would collapse soon. This is bad. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's eyes narrowed, and his face reflected his astonishment. He thought that the fellow was still immobile from its severe injuries. To think that he had recovered sufficiently to stand up and exert such offensive might after a few days of recuperation. But of course, perhaps it was agitated by beast tamer Zhang's ancient beast language. It seemed to be in an extremely bad mood. If the nightmare beast were to escape under such conditions, the beast hall would be in grave danger. Most likely it might be wiped off the face of the world. See what you've done! The more Hall Master Xie Jiuchen thought about it, the more furious he became. Thus he turned around and chastised Zhang Xian. What in the world is this? I asked you here to tame the savage beast, not to provoke it. Elders, prepare the Constellation Beast Confinement Formation. Knowing that it was useless to blame this fellow at this point, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen bellowed. Yes. The elders of Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall also knew how dangerous the situation was, so they immediately got into action. They hurriedly rushed to their places with a grim expression. The Constellation Beast Confinement Formation was a powerful formation used to trap savage beasts. Many of the elders in the Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall had studied and cultivated it. As long as they ran to their allocated location to infuse their Jinqi into the formation, they would be able to activate it even without in-depth understanding of the formations. What's going on? Beast Tamer Zhang seems to have provoked that savage beast. Isn't he here to tame it? How did he end up provoking it instead? Wei Yudao, Jiang Nanping, and others also felt nervous upon seeing the situation. That was a half-transcendent savage beast. Once it went on a rampage, the entire beast hall would be reduced to ruins. Hong hong hong! Amidst everyone's shocked gazes, the nightmare beast threw its body at the metal cage several more times, and a huge hole, through which he could escape, appeared in it. 1. As soon as its head appeared outside, a clear buzz suddenly echoed. The Constellation Beast Confinement Formation had been activated. A white light shot out from the locations of the elders, forming a gigantic net that wrapped itself around the nightmare beast. Trapped by the gigantic net of light, the nightmare beast became even more irritated. It howled furiously, and its giant claws grabbed at empty air. Tzzzzzzzz. White energy emanations reminiscent of sword chi shot out from the claws of the nightmare beast, striking straight at the net trapping it. The net tremored violently, and as though a shield struck by a powerful hammer, a deep reverberation sounded. Pooh! Pooh! Under the massive force, some of the elders standing at the center of the formation spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Half-transcendent savage beasts were already an extremely strong existence, and this fellow possessed the dragon bloodline on top of that. Its immense strength allowed it to match up to even a transcendent mortal expert. Even though the elders were strong as well, most of them were only at Chizuin Realm Intermediate and Advanced stage. They weren't a match for this fellow at all. Hurry up and infuse more Jinqi in to reinforce the formation. Seeing that the nightmare beast was about to escape, Xie Jiuchen panicked. He hurriedly called for help. As soon as the formation collapses, the entire beast hall would surely be destroyed. They could not back away at this point. Hong Long! Knowing the severity of the issue, most of the elders immediately got into action. They charged forward and infused all of their Jinqi into the formation. Accompanying the furious surge of Jinqi into the formation, the darkened net suddenly glowed brilliantly once more. While the formation had been strengthened, the nightmare beast seemed to have derived strength from its rage as well. Roaring furiously once more, its lower limbs pushed against the ground, and its massive body struck the massive net in midair. Selah! Under the violent power contained in the massive body, the beast confinement net caved in and was torn apart. Dang 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 dang. All of the elders who had operated the formation collapsed onto the floor with pale faces. Who? After escaping from the formation, the nightmare beast glared at Zhang Xian with widened eyes. Carrying unparalleled strength in its body, it charged swiftly toward him. It's over. Seeing that the formation and metal cage had failed to contain the nightmare beast, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's face was ghastly pale. He didn't expect that the savage beast would suddenly go on a rampage in the midst of the beast-taming process. Given that so many people were unable to withstand the might of the nightmare beast, no matter how talented beast tamer Zhang was, he would surely be torn to shreds. Moo! Knowing that it was impossible to save the other party, Hall Master Siejiochin was about to avert his gaze when the young man released another bizarre sound. Siejiochin staggered. It was precisely because of your random babbling that provoked this fellow. Yet to think that you wouldn't learn your lesson. Are you that intent to die? Just as Hall Master Siejiochin was about to urge Zhang Xian to hurry up and leave instead of continuing to dabble in the ancient beast language or whatever it was, he saw the nightmare beast suddenly kneeling onto the floor after hearing the sound. It stuck out its tongue, and it licked the young man all over. Its appearance was no different from the whirlwind wolves back then. Word of submission, bloodline suppression. Could this be the true voice of dragons? Hall Master Siejiochin's eyes narrowed, and his face paled. What in the world was going on? Chapter 427 True Voice of Dragons. The true voice of dragons was a language that only ancient pure-blooded dragons were capable of using. As long as one's dragon bloodline didn't reach the level of a pure-blooded dragon, a single word would cause a suppression from its bloodline, forcing it into submission. The nightmare beast was still baring its fangs at beast tamer Zhang previously, but at the very next moment, it suddenly fell to the floor and became as tame as a pup. If this wasn't the language depicted in the legends, Hall Master Siejiochin had no idea what other languages were capable of such a feat, but didn't this language disappear along with the dragon tribe, its heritage lost? How did he learn of it? More importantly, even if the members of the dragon tribe were to impart the true voice of dragons to him, it was impossible for humans to learn it. This was not just a matter of talent. Even if one possessed superior jinqi, the human body was still unable to withstand its sharp notes. This sound had to travel through all of the meridians within one's body and harmonize all of one's acupoints before it could be produced. Even if one cultivated the most profound cultivation technique, it was impossible for one to open up all of their meridians and acupoints. Can it really be that he's the true incarnation of dragons? Hall Master Siejiochin narrowed his eyes, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Legends had it that the dragon tribe traveled across the world, and they took on many forms. Some became beasts, some became humans, some became spirits, some became monsters. No one could discern their true identity. Just by pummeling the whirlwind wolves, the latter immediately submitted to him and fawned on him. With a single fist, he caused the tiger-head beast to play dead. With just a few words, he made the steel-armed golden ape waved him goodbye, as though buddies with decades of history behind them. If he isn't a true incarnation of dragons, how can he possibly achieve such ridiculous feats? Even 5-star beast tamers are incapable of such a feat. Regardless of whether he is one, I mustn't reveal this matter. Otherwise, I'll surely be silenced. Hall Master Siejiochin's face paled. The members of the dragon tribe were incomparably strong, and from birth, they were granted with powerful destructive might. If this beast tamer Zhang was a true incarnation of dragons, and he exposed the other party's true identity when he wished to conceal the fact, he might incur the wrath and killing intent of the other party to himself. Hall Master Siejiochin's conjectures caused his face to slowly pale in fear. On the other hand, the crowd, baffled by the sight before them, was about to go insane from bewilderment. The rage of the nightmare beast was not feigned in the least. Even the grade 3 pinnacle formation maintained by so many elders was torn apart. Its might was truly fearsome. Yet this strong, proud fellow was suddenly lying on the floor, licking the other party's pants. What in the world happened in between? What is it doing? I've no idea. Could it be that there's something about Beast Tamer Zhang's pants that's even more delicious than the 7-colored honey? Is that why it's licking it nonstop? It can't be that. It has been tamed? But even if it's tamed, it couldn't possibly have changed its attitude so quickly. Some of the older beast tamers tore their beards out, but their minds were too preoccupied for them to feel pain. The sight before them was simply too frightening. In the blink of an eye, a half-transcendent savage beast, who was thinking of slaughtering everyone here just a moment ago, was suddenly lying so docilely on the floor. No one could accept this abrupt twist. With a scream, this fellow was tamed? Wei Yudao, Jiang Nanping, and the others stared at one another, and their heads were about to burst from shock. Wei Yudao had taken out the 7-colored honey, which was ranked 5th on the list, but even so, he was disregarded. Just when they thought that this haughty fellow could never be tamed. Beast Tamer Zhang simply cried out a word, and that fellow immediately sprawled on the floor and fawned on the other party, as though afraid that the other party would not take him in. When did a half-transcendent savage beast become so shameless? Was it insane, or were our eyes playing tricks on us? In truth, Zhang Xian was dumbfounded as well. Previously, when he accidentally agitated the nightmare beast through the ancient beast language, he was anxious as well. He only gave that bizarre language a try, especially since he could escape with the Heaven's Path movement art if he failed. He didn't think that the other party's attitude would change completely after hearing it. If only he'd known before those words were so formidable, he wouldn't have wasted his effort with the ancient beast language. Glancing at the massive head, which kept cuddling itself up to him, Zhang Xian suppressed his astonishment and asked, "You wish to submit to me?" Roar! The nightmare beast hurriedly nodded its head. This. Even though the other party had admitted to the matter, Zhang Xian was still a little dumbfounded. Wasn't it being a little too easy? Then, let's establish the contract then. Even though Zhang Xian was bewildered, he knew that this was a good opportunity. Touching the other party's head, he drew a droplet of blood from the tip of his forefinger. As though fearing that Zhang Xian would change his mind, the nightmare beast hurriedly swallowed it with a contented look. After which, Zhang Xian felt the will being bound to his own, allowing him to communicate with the other party. This is complete submission? The beast tamers in the surroundings felt lightheaded. Just by shouting a few bizarre sounds, the other party actually succeeded. When did taming a half-transcendent savage beast become so easy? To think that we even thought about competing with him. Many of the geniuses of the younger generation were on the verge of tears. Even though Zhang Xian had passed the 10-beast cage, there were still a few who refused to concede. However, upon seeing this sight, they realized that the difference in their capability was simply too vast. Even Hall Master Xie Jiuchen, a 3-star beast tamer, was unable to succeed, yet, in just a dozen breaths or so, the other party was already done. This feat was so incredible that it felt that it could not have been done by a human. This is a truly master beast tamer. Someone amidst the crowd sighed. Hearing those words, the rest nodded their heads in agreement. Most probably, only masters of this level would be capable of taming the nightmare beast so easily and clear the 10-beast cage in half a tea's time. Everyone turned their gazes toward the master, curious to see how he would do now that he had established a contract. Only to see the other party walking toward Hall Master Xie Jiuchen. Hall Master Xie, I've already tamed this fellow, so 20 droplets of spirit beast blood essence. Wait, you said that you're going to give me 10 more? When will you be passing those to me? Spirit beast blood essence. Xie Jiuchen's body swayed, and his mouth twitched. When I told you to tame this nightmare beast, I meant that you should convince it to serve the Beast Hall as the organization's tamed beast. Yet, not only did you take it for yourself, you even have to cheek to ask for compensation. Can you be more reasonable? It is just like I have asked you to help me court a beautiful lady that I met with much difficulty, and yet you seduced her for yourself, and you even expect me to pay you for it. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen felt so stifled inside that he was on the verge of throwing up blood. You cannot be so unreasonable. Beast Tamer Zhang, you have tamed the nightmare beast to become your tamed beast. Isn't it inappropriate for you to expect us to pay you spirit beast blood essence like that? Seeing the Hall Master go speechless from rage, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing could not help but interject. Inappropriate? Didn't I tame the nightmare beast? Zhang Xian asked. That's right. Didn't you say that you'll pay me the spirit beast blood essence as long as I tame it? Zhang Xian continued. Yes. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was on the verge of tears. Initially, he thought that no matter how formidable this fellow was, he was only a Zhongshu Realm pinnacle cultivator. Given how the nightmare beast disregarded even them, how could it possibly submit to such a weak fellow? Never in their dreams did they expect that the other party would really succeed. Since you've agreed to it, then we should get it over and done with. Otherwise, I'll go and clear the 10 beasts cage, Jiang Xian said. Forget it. Grand Elder Wei, go and fetch the spirit beast blood essence. The corner of Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's lips twitched, and he hurriedly waved his hands. There was no way to undo the matter of the nightmare beast anymore. On the other hand, if that fellow were to continue challenging the 10 beasts cage, it would not be long before all of the savage beasts in the Beast Hall would become his. If that truly happened, then as the Hall Master of the Beast Hall, he would become a huge laughingstock. All right. Even though Grand Elder Wei Yuqing felt frustrated as well, he still fulfilled the Hall Master's command. A moment later he returned with a jade bottle in his hands. Taking the jade bottle over, Jiang Xian uncapped the lid and took a look. Scarlet blood flowed within the container, and it filled up to half of the bottle. Making a rough estimation, he confirmed there were around 30 droplets inside. Great! Jiang Xian's purpose at the Beast Hall was this. Having obtained what he wanted, Jiang Xian happily placed the bottle into his storage ring. Seeing the sight, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's heart bled. Despite the huge accumulation of Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall over a span of 1,000 years, it only had around 50 droplets here. Having more than half of it taken away in an instant, he could not help but feel a sense of loss. However, upon thinking that it was possible for the other party to be a true incarnation of dragons, he hurriedly pushed down his displeasure. All right, there's no use for you to follow me. You might as well submit to the Beast Hall and stay here. As long as you agree to it, I'll take care of the afflictions you are suffering from. It's also not entirely impossible for me to help you become a spirit beast. Oblivious to Hall Master Xie Jiuchen's reactions, Jiang Xian turned to the nightmare beast and waved his hands casually. This fellow was strong, but it was not capable of flying. Thus, its usability was limited to Jiang Xian. Xianyuan Kingdom was only a temporary resting point. Jiang Xian had to reach the Myriad Kingdom alliance within 3 months, and it would be impossible for him to take the other party along. Since that was the case, he might as well sell a favor to the Beast Hall. Of course, if the other party had not given the Spirit Beast's blood essence to him, he would have rather let the Nightmare Beast loose than help tame it for the Beast Hall. In the end, Jiang Xian was no Samaritan. If the other party had reneged on his promise, why should he help them? You. What did you say? You want the Nightmare Beast to submit to our Beast Hall? Initially, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen was displeased by the other party's extortion, but upon hearing his words, his breathing hastened in agitation. Jiang Xian waved his hands casually. This. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing were stunned. Their eyes slowly turned red. This was a half-transcendent savage beast. If any one of them were to tame it, it would be impossible for them to give it up. Yet, this fellow was saying that he would give it to them. Wasn't he being too generous? They thought that the other party was a selfish and greedy person who only knew how to extort from others. However, Jiang Xian's actions had changed their opinion of him. Perhaps, he really might have some urgent use for the spirit beast's blood essence. A half-transcendent savage beast which possessed the potential to make the breakthrough to become a spirit beast was clearly much more valuable than 30 droplets of spirit beast's blood essence. In fact, even 100 droplets would still be unable to match up to its value. Since the other party was willing to give away such a formidable savage beast directly, how could he possibly be a greedy person? We misunderstood him. Geniuses have their own pride, so how could he possibly act dishonorably just for this bit of interest? A thought suddenly appeared in their heads. The impression the two had of beast tamer Jiang immediately went through a 180-degree reversal. But at that moment, the young man before them suddenly spoke up hesitantly. Oh, right. Since I convinced the Nightmare Beast to submit to Beast Hall, shouldn't you all offer some token of appreciation? For example, spirit stones, pills, medicinal herbs, or that sort. I wouldn't mind a carriage or 2 of them. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing. Chapter 428 Uncle Sun Chang is here 1. We are the Beast Hall. not some spirit stone mining clan. How much of wealth do you think we possess? Still a carriage or two. Just a few dozen would already be almost their entire stock. As for pills, medicinal herbs, and the sort, even if the beast hall had them, they are mainly reserved for the savage beasts. How in the world are we going to find so many for you? They had just thought that this fellow was generous when he gave himself in right after. Beast Tamer Zhang, you must be jesting. It's not that we don't want to give those to you, we simply don't have that many resources here. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen replied with a reddened face. It's all right if you don't have those. However, there's something that I really require, and I hope that you won't turn me down. Zhang Xian turned to look at them. Feel free to speak. I need over 1,000 half-Jizuan and Jizuan realm cultivation technique manuals. There are no requirements to their quality, and the more there are, the better it is, Zhang Xian said. Zhang Xian's motive wasn't spirit stones or medicinal herbs, but this. Only with sufficient cultivation technique could he form the Jizuan realm heaven's path divine art and achieve a breakthrough. No matter what, if he wanted to avenge Lu Chong, he would require strength. 1,000 half-Jizuan and Jizuan realm cultivation technique manuals? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen blinked. What did he need those for? It's not like you could boil cultivation techniques together to make a stew. On top of that, to demand nothing of their quality. This is simple, I can prepare them for you. However, I'll require at least 3 days. After pondering for a moment, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded. Jizuan realm cultivation techniques were valuable in Tianwu Kingdom, and it was nigh impossible to find even a single one in the market. However, in Xianyuan Kingdom, most clans would possess several books. Collecting 1,000 of them was troublesome, but with the connections of the Beast Hall, it would not be too difficult. Fine. Hearing that it was possible for the other party to collect all of them, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. With this, he had met 2 main goals he had at the Beast Hall: Spirit Beast Blood Essence and Cultivation Technique Manuals. All right, I'll cure your wounds now. Zhang Xian turned to look at the Nightmare Beast. The fellow had suffered some afflictions when it failed in its breakthrough to transcendent mortal realm. Previously, Zhang Xian had promised to treat it as part of his deal, so it was time for him to fulfill the end of his bargain. Roar! The Nightmare Beast knew that it would not be able to follow behind Zhang Xian once its injuries had recovered, so it howled in reluctance. The other party was an expert capable of producing the true voice of dragons. If it were to follow behind him, it would surely be able to reach great heights in the future. Staying at this Beast Hall meant losing this great opportunity. However, the master had already made his stand contractually bound to Zhang Xian. It did not dare to protest. For me to solve your problem, I've to know what problems you are suffering from first. Ignoring its unhappiness, Zhang Xian glanced at it and said, All right. Knock yourself out. Roar? The Nightmare Beast widened its eyes in bewilderment. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and Grand Elder Wei Yuqing were speechless as well. It seemed like this fellow had not given up his intention of knocking the Nightmare Beast out. What are you roaring for? Hurry up! Zhang Xian chastised with a slight frown. He had no time to waste here. He needed to make use of his time to cultivate Heaven's Path Golden Body 2 Dan. Roar! It stared at Zhang Xian pleadingly, but upon seeing the other party's determined gaze, it gritted its teeth before striking its massive hand on its head. Pada! The sight before it turned dark, and it passed out. If Xie Jiuchen and the others wanted to knock it out, they would probably have to go through a huge hassle. It was much simpler for it to do the work itself. What is it doing? What's happening? When the Nightmare Beast barged out of its cage, the other beast tamers immediately retreated far away. Thus, they missed out on the conversation of the others. However, upon seeing the huge fellow knock itself out, bizarre expressions appeared on their faces. Beast Tamer Zhang is about to treat that huge fellow. Hall Master Feng and Beast Tamer Wang chuckled. Treat? Luo Tang, Fang Jin, and the others were bewildered. One had to knock out savage beasts before treating them. This is Beast Tamer Zhang's unique diagnosis method, the unconscious treatment method, Hall Master Feng explained. Unconscious treatment method? Beast pummeling taming method. What the heck is with his techniques? The duo found themselves at the end of their tolerance for this insanity. They had seen many eccentric things in this world, but such a bizarre sight was one they could have never imagined. Ever since they were apprentice beast tamers, there was an ironclad rule seared deep in their minds. To tame a savage beast, one must cultivate an intimate relationship with it, and conflicts are a huge taboo. Yet, the beast pummeling taming method and unconscious treatment method. If anyone else were to try pummeling a savage beast, they would definitely be beaten to death. Yet, not only was this fellow still in perfect condition, he even managed to get the savage beast to submit to it. Just by thinking about it made them feel stifled. Amidst everyone's bewildered and gloomy gazes, Jiang Xian had already touched the nightmare beast and formed a corresponding book. Flipping through it, he found the root of the fellow's illness. Indeed, he suffered severe injuries from his failed breakthrough. Not only are his meridians injured, his internal organs are also damaged. He will require the nourishment of medicinal herbs. I'll write down a prescription for you now. If you were to treat him, it'll help you in earning his goodwill, Jiang Xian said. This fellow was indeed severely injured. After all, if that wasn't the case, it would have been impossible for the Beast Hall to capture him. On top of that, he overexerted himself previously, exacerbating his injuries. Even though Jiang Xian could treat it without the Library of Heaven's Path given his current level of medical knowledge, he would be only able to treat its symptoms, not the root of its illness. Knowing the specific location of the injuries had made it much simpler to cure the nightmare beast. However, to heal it to the point that it could try for transcendent mortal realm once more would still take at least half a year. Of course, if Jiang Xian were to use his Heaven's Path Jinqi, the other party's recovery rate would be boosted. However, Jiang Xian's current cultivation realm was far too lacking as compared to the other party. Putting aside the doubt of the effectiveness of the Heaven's Path Jinqi under such circumstances, there was a chance that Jiang Xian's pure Jinqi might be revealed, and this would bring him a whole string of trouble. Thus, he would rather dump the problem on the Beast Hall. In any case, this would also serve as a platform for them to strike up a relationship with the Nightmare Beast. Yes. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded. Jiang Xian took out a piece of paper and a brush, and started writing down a prescription. The main ingredient of the prescription just so happened to be Wei Yudeo's 7-colored honey. He was only responsible for providing the prescription. As for how the other party would negotiate the matter, that was no longer a matter for him to worry over. I need a quiet chamber. After dealing with this matter, Jiang Xian raised his request. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen did not dare to keep Jiang Xian waiting. He hurriedly prepared a quiet and spacious residence for him. This beast tamer Jiang had successfully cleared the 10 beasts cage. Just that in itself was sufficient reason for the Beast Hall to give him a residence already. Not to mention, the other party even tamed the Nightmare Beast and gave it to the Beast Hall. It would be hard for the Beast Hall to return this debt. After settling Zhao Ye and the others in, Jiang Xian turned to Hall Master Xie Jiuchen and asked, Right, Hall Master Xie, may I trouble you on another matter? Feel free to speak. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen chuckled. Despite this fellow's young age, Xie Jiuchen already viewed him as a fellow peer, or perhaps, even a senior. Putting all things aside, just the fact that Beast Tamer Jiang was able to tame the Nightmare Beast so easily and produce the true voice of dragons showed that his capability was far beyond his. May I trouble you to assign a person to escort a friend of mine to Gale Valley of the Duskfall Mountains? Jiang Xian called Sun Chang over by gesturing to him. Duskfall Mountains. Gale Valley? You are going to the Poison Hall? Hall Master Xie Jiuchen narrowed his eyes. The Xianyuan Kingdom Poison Hall branch was well hidden, and very few people knew of its exact position. Even so, as the head of the Beast Hall, Xie Jiuchen was well informed on such matters. It was in Gale Valley. That region was usually forbidden lands for ordinary cultivators. Why was Beast Tamer Jiang sending his subordinate over? You know of the Poison Hall as well? Indeed, I need him to make a trip for me. Jiang Xian chuckled. But The surrounding area of the poison hall is treacherous land. Hall Master Xie Jiuchen tried to talk Zhang Xian out of it. The poison hall had a horrible reputation, and there were many casualties under them. To abruptly pay a visit was an extremely dangerous affair. More importantly, this subordinate of his was only at Dingli realm. I have a friend at the poison hall, and I just need Sun Chang to look for him in my stead. There won't be any danger, so you don't have to worry. It's just that I need someone to protect him on the way to avoid unnecessary trouble, Zhang Xian explained. Back then, when Gu Mu left, he had left Zhang Xian with a token, saying that he could bring it to look for him when he needed help. Since Zhang Xian was going against the Xianyuan royal family now, he needed all the help he could get. However, Zhang Xian urgently needed to cultivate now so that he could gain sufficient strength to exact his vengeance. Thus, after much contemplation, he decided to send Sun Chang over. This fellow might be arrogant, but he was able to retain his composure even before experts like Su Fan and Ling Yuan. As such, he was in a much better position than Zhao Ye and the others. All right then. I'll go make preparations. Hearing that Zhang Xian had a friend at the poison hall, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen hesitated for a moment before eventually nodding his head. Then, after the other party left, Zhang Xian turned around to face Sun Chang. Butler Sun, I have something I require your help on. Young master, feel free to speak. Sun Chang hurriedly clasped his fist. As the sole direct disciple of the old master, Sun Chang had to obey Zhang Xian's commands. Take this token, visit a poison master named Gu Mu in the Gale Valley Poison Hall and have him meet me at Xianyuan Kingdom. Zhang Xian instructed, taking out a token. All right. Sun Chang nodded his head. May I know if this Gu Mu is young master's friend? How should I address him? Zhang Xian had never told anyone about the happenings in the poison hall, so Sun Chang did not know about the matter. Oh, this Gu Mu is my teacher's grand student, meaning my junior nephew, Zhang Xian replied. Initially, Zhang Xian was going to say that the other party was his grand student, but if the other party were to find out his senior granduncle was not even 20 yet, he would surely bear doubts. Thus, he might as well push the identity of the elusive expert to his teacher. In any case, his teacher had always been an unfathomable figure. Adding an additional layer of secrecy to his identity did not mean anything much at this point. The old master's grand student? Sun Chang's eyes lit up. He did not expect the old master to be so formidable as to have a grand student in the poison hall. As a servant of the old master, even if I am of inferior standing to the old master, I am at least of the same standing as the young master. Since that Gu Mu lad is the old master's grand student, young master's junior nephew, that means that he's my junior as well, Sun Chang thought. As his senior, it's only right for him to run over as soon as he's called. Besides, as his senior, he should at least welcome me grandly with good alcohol and meat. The more he thought about it, the more satisfied Sun Chang felt with the job he was assigned. Seeing the other party's delighted expression, Zhang Xian warned, "The poison hall is a dangerous place, so be careful." "Young master, rest assured." Sun Chang nodded. "I'll leave a surge of Junqi with you just in case someone tries to poison you. At the very least, you'll be able to protect yourself this way." After a moment of hesitation, Zhang Xian flicked his finger, and a surge of heaven's path Junqi flew through the other party's meridians, seeped into his dantian, and lay dormant within. Chapter 429 Uncle Sun Chang is here too. Zhang Xian's Zhongshe realm heaven's path Junqi could neutralize all poisons of grade 3 and below. It was hard to tell what kind of dangers Sun Chang would meet, so it was best for him to be careful. With this surge of Junqi, Sun Chang should be able to protect himself from the poison of ordinary poison masters. "Thank you, young master!" Knowing that the young master was doing this for his safety, Sun Chang bowed in gratitude. After the last few days of fellowship, he knew that even though the young master might be inferior to the old master, he was also a man of great capability. Since he decided to do so, he must have his own considerations. After explaining the method of triggering the surge of Junqi and ensuring that the other party understood his words, Zhang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Even though Sun Chang was a little coarse, his ability to get things done was reliable. All along, he had been able to reliably accomplish the tasks Zhang Xian entrusted to him, saving him a lot of hassle. Yang Shi was an unfathomable, advanced master teacher, and the butler of such a figure had to possess a befitting disposition. Even though Sun Chang's cultivation was so, he had been able to play the role of a butler perfectly. Otherwise, Zhang Xian would not have gone through the trouble of bringing him here from Tianxian Kingdom. These are a few pills beneficial to your cultivation. Remember to cultivate hard even when traveling. With a flick of his wrist, Zhang Xian took out several pills that he obtained from the Lin clan and passed them over. Yes. Sun Chang hurriedly received them. He was no fool. Given that his cultivation was already lagging behind, he knew that if he did not work harder, he would soon lose his value. While Zhang Xian was delegating a few more points for Sun Chang to take note of, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen returned with an elder before him. It was Wei Yuqing. The poison hall is dangerous, and after much consideration, I decided to assign Elder Wei to follow him. This way, his safety can be guaranteed, Hall Master Xie said. On top of being a 3-star beast tamer, Wei Yuqing was a Jizuan realm pinnacle expert. Other than Xie Jiuchen, he was the strongest person in the entire beast hall. Also, he possessed the deepest understanding of the affairs of the poison hall as well. It should be safer for him to escort Beast Tamer Zhang's subordinate. Beast Tamer Zhang was an important guest of the Beast Hall. On top of that, they had yet to fully tame the Nightmare Beast. Thus, no matter what, they had to protect the other party's subordinate well. I'll be depending on Elder Wei then. Zhang Xian clasped his fist. Don't worry. Wei Yuqing nodded with a smile. Even though I've never been to the Poison Hall, I've heard some rumors about it. If it's just looking for someone, there won't be any danger. As long as they weren't going to the Poison Hall to wreak havoc, it should be fine. After all, even though poison masters were formidable, beast tamers, as a member of the Upper Nine Paths, were not to be trifled with either. Since Grand Elder Wei Yuqing was making a move personally, Zhang Xian felt reassured. The duo left on an aerial savage beast. After trading some pleasantries with Zhang Xian, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen took his leave. The nightmare beast had awoken, and he had to make use of this opportunity to strike up an intimate relationship with the latter before it recovered fully. Time to start! After the crowd left, Zhang Xian found a quiet room, conditioned himself, and sat down cross-legged. With his recent gains, he should have sufficient spirit beast blood essence to reach Heaven's Path Golden Body 2 Dan. After adjusting his state, Zhang Xian flicked his wrist, and a few droplets of spirit beast blood essence appeared in his palm. There was a dense concentration of spiritual energy in the room. This was a unique cultivation chamber in the residence, and a spiritual energy gathering formation had been set up here. Closing his eyes, Zhang Xian began to drive his Jinqi according to the formula stated within the Heaven's Path Golden Body 2 Dan. Then, with a flick of his finger, the blood droplets suddenly turned into a mist, permeating into the pores throughout Zhang Xian's body. The spirit beast's blood essence was the essence of the blood extracted from a spirit beast. Even though it wasn't as valuable as inner cores, harnessed within every droplet was the very essence of a spirit beast. The energy contained in every droplet was even purer and denser than those in spirit stones. A huge spiral formed within his body, taking in all of the energy within the blood to nourish every single cell within him. The effects are indeed significantly less effective than before. Taking a look at his body after absorbing the first batch of spirit beast blood essence, Zhang Xian frowned. Along with the rise in his strength, the requirement on the spirit beast blood essence would increase as well. In the past, a single drop could induce massive improvements, but now, its effects had been greatly cut. But in any case, Zhang Xian had sufficient spirit blood essence in his possession, so he had no worries. Based on his previous calculations, 20 droplets of spirit beast blood essence should be sufficient for him to reach Shizuan Realm Pinnacle. As long as his strength reached that level, it would be possible for him to face even a half-transcendent cultivator through the eye of insight and library of heaven's path. He would be able to exact vengeance then. Tzzzzz. Under the effects of the heaven's path golden body 2 Dan, the constitution of Zhang Xian's muscles was modified, augmenting his physical strength immensely. Boom! After an unknown period of time, with the sound of an explosion, Zhang Xian seemed to have broken a shackle binding his body. It felt as though he was submerged in a tub of hot water, and a feeling of relaxation spread all over him. Finally, he had broken through the 9999 ding bottleneck to reach the level of Jizuan realm. Even though there was only a single ding of difference between 9999 ding and 10,000 ding, it set apart the boundary between a half Jizuan and Jizuan. With this leap, one's level of existence became completely different. Jizuan was the peak of the fighter realm. Regardless of whether it was one's physical body, spirit, or energy, one would be approaching the limits of a human at this realm. Only when one had reached this realm could one attempt to break their mortal limits to become a transcendent mortal. Upon success, their lifespan and strength would be enhanced immensely. If one could not even take the step to Jizuan realm, one would be doomed to remain as a mortal for life. One could only watch helplessly as time left its mark on one. In other words, it was the stepping stone to becoming a true expert. Many cultivators found themselves locked outside of its gates, unable to take the final step in, and thus, dying in regret. After previously absorbing the 2 droplets of Spirit Beast's blood essence, Zhang Xian also found himself stuck before this hurdle, unable to raise his strength by that final ding to push through the next realm no matter how he cultivated. However, with sufficient blood essence in his hands, he could finally take that final step. With the breakthrough in his cultivation, Zhang Xian's reaction speed and senses were enhanced immensely. His vision became much sharper and clearer. As expected of the top realm of a fighter. Just the breakthrough in his physical body had brought him many benefits. Even though his strength was just increased by a single ding, his overall fighting prowess rose by almost 2-folds. If he were to fight with the steel-armed Golden Ape once more, even without the Library of Heaven's Path, he would be able to crush it easily with just his strength. This was Jizuan realm. Finally! Knowing that it would be easier to raise his cultivation now, having broken through his bottleneck, Zhang Xian frenziedly absorbed the Spirit Beast's blood essence within the jade bottle and drove the Heaven's Path golden body 2 Dan. Once again, his strength rose at a rate visible to the eye. 10,100 ding! 10,200 ding! 10,300 ding! 30,000 ding! In just a single day, Zhang Xian reached 30,000 ding straight, granting him strength equivalent to a Jizuan realm advanced stage expert. At this moment, he had already expended a total of 18 drops of Spirit Beast's blood essence. The expenditure is greater than I'd expected. He thought that it would only take at most 10 droplets for him to reach Jizuan realm advanced stage, but contrary to his expectations, it took 18 instead. That was far beyond his estimations. It was fortunate that he received 10 additional droplets from Hall Master Xie. With 12 droplets remaining, it should be sufficient for him to push to Jizuan realm pinnacle. Continue! Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xian closed his eyes and continued cultivating. While Zhang Xian was in seclusion, Sun Quan had finally arrived at the Gale Valley in the Dusk Fall Mountains after half a day of traveling. Similar to the Red Lotus Range, it extended far beyond the horizon, and the Poison Hall was hidden somewhere amidst this vast plot of lush greenery. If one didn't know the exact location of the Poison Hall, putting aside finding it, one would probably end up dead at the hands of the powerful savage beasts prowling around or from the poisonous mist which lingered in the air. Be careful! Grand Elder Wei Yuqing took out an antidote pill in advance. The duo abandoned the aerial savage beast and began proceeding through the mountain valley on foot. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing's strength of Jizuan realm pinnacle made the weaker savage beasts dare not approach him. On top of that, he was an experienced veteran, and under his guide, the duo avoided most of the danger. After a day of walking, having circled around innumerable savage beasts and poisonous mist, a massive infrastructure appeared before them. Countless tall dark gray stone buildings reminiscent of ancient relics clustered around it. The layout was similar to the Red Lotus Range Poison Hall, but it was clearly larger and grander. There were all kinds of formidable formations laid out in the area. After circling around a massive boulder, they finally arrived at the entrance. Before they could walk in, they seemed to have triggered some kind of mechanism. Gia! A loud rumbling echoed, and immediately afterward, the ringing of bells sounded. Voila! A few poison masters wearing long robes appeared before the duo. Even though Poison Hall was well hidden and no one would easily attempt to besiege it, it was still one of the most hated and feared occupations in the continent. As such, they went to the extent of building a strong defensive system. Who dares to barge into the Poison Hall? A young man walked forward as he assessed the two intruders with a cold gaze. These few people seemed to be in their 30s, and they had all reached Zongsha Realm, and the young man who spoke had even reached Zongsha Realm pinnacle. But of course, what was fearsome about poison masters wasn't their strength but their ability to utilize poison. Even though they were only at Zongsha Realm, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing didn't dare to underestimate them. I am a 3-star beast tamer from the Beast Hall, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing. I'm here to seek a friend. Wei Yuqing stepped forward and clasped his hands. After a day of accompaniment, Wei Yuqing realized that Sun Chang was only at Dingli Realm. It was likely that the poison masters would simply disregard his presence, so he chose to take on the job of interacting with the other party. An elder from the Beast Hall? Taken aback, a grim look slowly surfaced on the young man. Even though they rarely interacted with the outside world, poison masters still roughly knew the various powers out in the world. Given that the other party was an elder of the Beast Hall, his strength was most probably at Jizuan Realm pinnacle. This wasn't a figure that they could trifle with. May I know which poison master within our Poison Hall you are looking for? The young man replied politely. It's a poison master named Gu Mu, Sun Chang said. Gu Mu? The young man was taken aback by Sun Chang's words, and a frown slowly appeared on his forehead. You're looking for Hall Master Gu Mu? Hall Master? Sun Chang and Wei Yuqing were dumbstruck. Wei Yuqing knew that they were here to look for Zhang Xian's junior nephew. He thought that the other party would just be some unknown poison master, to think that he would be the head of the Poison Hall. The standing of the head of the Poison Hall was in no way inferior to the head of the Beast Hall. That's right! Seeing that the other party clearly didn't know that Gu Mu was the Hall Master despite being here to look for him, a wary look appeared on the faces of the Poison Masters. May I know the reason why you are looking for the Hall Master? I'll help you relay your message. The reason? Sun Chang hesitated for a moment, but upon recalling his standing, he straightened his plump body and stood imposingly. Placing his hands behind his back, his eyebrows shot up, and an arrogant look appeared on his face. Humph, tell him that his uncle Sun Chang is here, so he should hurry out to welcome me. Chapter 430 Gu Mu's teacher is here 2-2-1. Uncle Sun Chang? Wei Yuqing was just about to explain the matter when he heard these words. His lips trembled, and he nearly bit his own tongue. As the head of the Poison Hall, there were no doubts about the other party's strength and his ability to utilize poison. Even if Hall Master Xie Jiuchen were to come personally, there was no guarantee that he could defeat the other party. Even Wei Yuqing had to bow respectfully before such an elder for fear of offending the other party. Yet this fellow declared that uncle is here as soon as he arrived. Where in the world did that come from? Even if Gu Mu was Yangshi's grand student, you should have nothing much to do with it. For a Dingli Realm fellow to claim to be uncle of a Jizuan Realm expert, and to declare it so loudly and imposingly at that. Wei Yuqing felt his face turn green. He thought that it should be a simple matter bringing Sun Chang here to look for someone. How could he have known that Sun Chang was such an unreliable companion? What did you say? Where did this fool come from? As expected. As soon as Sun Chang spoke those arrogant words, everyone's fury immediately erupted. They had always admired Hall Master Gu Mu's incredible strength, so how could they tolerate a random stranger claiming to be his uncle, his senior? This was an insult. Furthermore, even if Hall Master Gu Mu were to really have an uncle, The other party should at least be a powerful transcendent mortal expert. How could such a shameless-looking dingly round fellow like you be his uncle? Audacious! Used to such situations, Sun Chang's eyebrows shot up as he bellowed authoritatively. Hurry up and call him out. Otherwise, don't blame me if I get that lad Gu Mu to tear you apart. Lad? Gu Mu? Wei Yuqing's mouth twitched yet again. He felt that a heart problem would crop up soon enough if he continued listening to these words. You! The faces of the poison masters steeled in fury. Unable to hold back their fury, they were about to make a move on Sun Chang when a voice echoed. What happened? Who are these visitors? Turning to the origin of the voice, an imposing young man walked over with widened strides. It had not been long since the bell rang, and it was already ringing for the second time. When did the poison hall get so bothersome? Poison Master Wu Shi, you came at the right time. These fellows popped out from nowhere and claimed to be Hall Master Gu's uncle. The group hurriedly explained the matter to the young man who had just appeared. Teacher's uncle? I don't recall teacher having any relatives. Wu Shi frowned in confusion. Even though he was baffled, he chose to handle the matter prudently. Thus he clasped his fist and asked, I am Wu Shi, and Hall Master Gu Mu is my teacher. May I know how to address you and where did you come from so that I can report this matter to teacher? Seeing the other party's respectful attitude, Sun Chang nodded his head in satisfaction. How to address me? I am your teacher's uncle, so you can address me as grandfather. Wu Shi's eyebrows twitched, and his body swayed for an instant. As the direct disciple of the Hall Master, he possessed a high standing in the Poison Hall. For a Dingli realm fellow out of nowhere to claim to be his grandfather. Stifled, he nearly exploded. Even so, if the other party was truly his teacher's uncle, there would be no problem with the address. Since you claim to be teacher's uncle, may I know if you have anything to affirm your identity? Suppressing his rage, Wu Shi clasped his fists respectfully. Here! With a flick of his wrist, Sun Chang threw the token Zhang Xian gave him over. It's teacher's token. Upon seeing the object, Wu Shi's face changed. He had seen teacher's token once, and it was a one-of-kind object. To think that he would see it on this plump man. Could this unimpressive fellow truly be teacher's uncle? Elder, please wait for a moment. I'll report this matter to teacher now. Given that the other party was able to take out his teacher's token, it was highly likely that his words were true. Thus, Wu Shi hurriedly clasped his fists respectfully. At the same time, he also changed his method of address to elder. Go on! Sun Chang waved his hands proudly. Seeing the imposing Wu Shi behaving so respectfully, the other poison masters were dumbfounded. They thought that this fellow was bragging. To think that it was actually true! Just a moment ago, someone had just appeared claiming to be the Hall Master's teacher. Given his powerful and majestic disposition, no one doubted his words at all. And now, the uncle had appeared as well. However, why did this uncle seem so weak and unimpressive? In the lounge of the Poison Hall, Gu Mu was seated on a chair, and he had an extremely respectful and humble look on his face. In the past 20 days, his cultivation had leaped considerably. Vaguely, one could sense that he was just a single step away from reaching half-transcension. It seemed like it wouldn't be long before he managed to make that breakthrough to a whole new world. Seated before was a white-haired elder. His eyes were deep as though an abyss, filled with the vicissitudes of life, leaving one with an unfathomable impression of him. Seated beside the elder was a youth dressed in a white robe. The youth had rosy lips and held a foldable fan in his hands. Taking a closer look, he was even more dashing than the refined GMO Gongzi, who won the hearts of the ladies in Tianwu Royal City. In fact, the disposition and appearance of this youth far exceeded that of GMO. The difference was as huge as though the gap between the heaven and the earth. A feature that stood out for that youth was his smooth and pale skin. Even Zhang Xian, who had already cultivated the Heaven's Path Golden Body Tu Dan, could not match up to his complexion. Perhaps, only Zhao Ye could be a match for him. The youth sat quietly on a chair beside the elder. Even though he didn't speak a single word, He exuded a pressure that caused the white-haired elder to feel slightly restrained, not daring to speak excessively. Teacher, this is the crimson flame lotus seed. Upon consumption, it'll increase a person's chances of breaking into the half-transcension realm by 20%. With a flick on his wrist, Hall Master Gumu took out a jade box and passed it over to the elder. Opening the box, a blood-red object the size of a peanut appeared before everyone's gazes. It exuded astonishingly concentrated spiritual energy which revitalized one with just a single breath. Crimson Flame Lotus Seed. This was the treasure obtained back when he was at the Red Lotus Range. On! Nodding his head, the elder took it and passed it to the youth beside him. Gongongzi! This is the reason why you came here? The youth who was addressed as Gongzi glanced at the seed for a moment before closing it. The incomparably valuable crimson flame lotus seed that other cultivators would kill to obtain seemed to be something of zero value in his eyes. I heard that this object is beneficial to Gongzi's recovery. The elder hurriedly explained. You've been troubled. Upon hearing that it was for him, Gongzi nodded his head, kept the jade box, and fell silent once more. Well done! Seeing the finicky Gongzi accept the crimson flame lotus seed, the elder heaved a sigh of relief. Only then did he turn to Hall Master Gumu and nod his head in satisfaction. Teacher has done so much for me. It's only right for me to be filial to you. Gumu hurriedly clasped his fist humbly. The person seated before him was his ex-teacher, four-star poison master Jin Songhai. When Jin Songhai was still a 3-star poison master, he accepted Gumu in as his student and groomed him. Eventually, he managed to break through his bottleneck, so he left Xianyuan Kingdom. With this departure, he was gone for 2 whole decades. Even so, his guidance had played a fundamental role to Gumu's current accomplishments. Otherwise, he would probably still be trying to crawl ahead as a 2-star poison master. Knowing that the crimson flame lotus seed was an incredible treasure, he immediately sent the news over to his teacher. As such, his teacher made a detour to the Xianyuan Kingdom Poison Hall. Since we've obtained what we needed, let's go! The Gongzi didn't seem to care for pleasantries or that sort. Waving the fan in his hand, he stood up. Yes. Jin Songhai nodded. Teacher, may I know, where are you heading in such a hurry to? If it's within my means, I wish to offer my assistance. Hall Master Gumu hesitated for a brief moment before asking. He thought that his teacher would stay a period of time, during which he could seek his guidance on his cultivation to break through his bottleneck. Yet, the other party was going to leave right after arriving. This left him slightly disappointed. Gongzi is intending to head to a Tier 1 kingdom below Xianyuan Kingdom. There's nothing we need your help on, you don't have to worry about it. Jin Songhai shook his hands and rejected the other party's offer with a smile. There is a total of 27 Tier 1 kingdoms under Xianyuan Kingdom. May I know which one is Gongzi and teacher intending to head to? I am familiar with some of them, so perhaps I can help lead the way. Knowing that his teacher was deferential to this Gongzi, Hall Master Gumu asked for the latter's opinion as well. Tianwu Kingdom, Jin Songhai said. Tianwu? I've just returned from there a few days ago. In fact, this crimson flame lotus seed came from the branch there. I am well versed with the directions there, so if I may, I could guide you both. Gumu's eyes lit up in excitement. Given that he had just come from Tianwu Kingdom, he was still rather familiar with the basic layout of the region. You've just returned from Tianwu Kingdom? Hearing the Gumu's words, the nonchalant Gongzi suddenly turned around and asked. Good, I've something to ask you about. Gongzi, feel free to speak. Gumu replied respectfully. After a momentary pause, the Gongzi was just about to voice his query when anxious footsteps sounded outside. Then, Wu Shi appeared in the group's sight. Teacher! What's wrong? Given that the other party interrupted the esteemed Gongzi's words, Gumu's complexion immediately darkened. There's a person outside claiming to be your uncle, and he insists on meeting you. Wu Shi hurriedly said. My uncle? Gumu was baffled. When did I ever have an uncle? His father was the sole son in his family, so how could he have an uncle? But, he has your token! Wu Shi quickly lifted the token Sun Chang gave him up. Upon seeing the token, realization suddenly struck Gu Mu. Could he be someone's senior granduncle sent? It was just a few days ago that he gave this token to the mysterious senior granduncle. Even though the other party looked young, he possessed unfathomable means. The reason why he managed to touch on the gates of half-transcension in just a short span of 20 days was because of this senior's guidance. The other party had cured him of his affliction and helped him tame the lava beast, thus granting him sufficient time and hope to avenge his wife. To be honest, the gratitude he felt toward this mysterious senior didn't pale to that of his teacher. What senior granduncle? Hearing Gu Mu's mutterings, Jin Sohai turned his head over. I was just about to report this matter to teacher. Gu Mu hurriedly walked forward and asked, May I know if teacher has a young-looking senior uncle? Since the other party was his senior granduncle, then naturally, he would be his teacher's senior uncle. Senior uncle? Jin Sohai was bewildered. Young-looking? What's his name? His name is Bai Chan. However, I think that it's just an alias. I'm not too sure what his real name is either, Gu Mu said. Gu Mu had Liao Sun investigated the matter, but the results showed that Bai Chan was only an ordinary physician in Tianwu Royal City. Most probably senior granduncle did not want others to know his identity, that's why he chose to conceal his true name. Seeing that Gu Mu was unclear of the matter as well, Jin Sohai asked, Where's he now? It was common for a cultivator to have many teachers throughout his entire life. However, most of them could only be considered as a half-teacher. More often than not, one would only have a single true teacher. His teacher had already passed away many years ago, and he didn't hear of his teacher having any juniors at all. Where did this senior uncle appear from? I haven't met him since parting from him at Red Lotus Range. However, I gave him my token, and someone is looking for me now with it. Most probably, that person should be his junior or his student, Gu Mu said. Since the other party claimed to be his uncle, it meant that the other party was a junior of his senior granduncle. My teacher, Jin Xinxue, has already passed away 13 years ago. He'd never spoken of our lineage, so I'm not too sure about the details as well. However, if he's truly related to my teacher, I should be able to recognize it. With a deep frown, Jin Sohai suddenly felt intrigued to know who the senior uncle was. After a moment of hesitation, he turned to look at Gongzi. It's only out of interest that I'm heading to Tianwu Royal City. It isn't much of a problem for me to push back my schedule for a few days. Since this is a problem regarding your lineage, you should investigate it properly to prevent anyone from making use of your name. Knowing Jin Songhai's intentions, Gongzi shook his hands casually. Thank you, Gongzi. Upon receiving the other party's approval, Jin Songhai's eyes lit up. Then, turning to Gu Mu, he issued an instruction. Allow him in. I would like to see if this senior uncle is real or not. Yes. Gu Mu nodded before gesturing to Wu Shi. The young man walked out, and before long, he returned with two figures behind him. The one walking in front was a plump man whose cultivation was only at Dingli realm. His hands behind his back, his chest was puffed up, and he carried a slight air of superiority. Sun Chang. The other man was an elder possessing a cultivation of Jizuan realm pinnacle. He had a composed disposition, but there was a sharp glint in his eyes. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing. As soon as the trio walked in, before Wu Shi had a chance to introduce them, Sun Chang's eyes swept across the people in the room and he said, Which of you is Gu Mu? Seeing how that fellow arrogantly addressed the hall master by his name, the complexion of Wu Shi and the others turned awful. I am. Gu Mu frowned as well, but he clasped his fist and responded politely. I believe you have seen the token already. The old master hopes for you to make a trip to Xianyuan Royal City. Without the slightest hesitation, Sun Chang walked up to the main seat and waved his plump hands. You should hurry up and make preparations. May I know the reason why senior granduncle is asking me to head for Xianyuan Royal City? And what should I prepare? Gu Mu asked in confusion. Since the other party had the token, it was unlikely that this plump man was an impostor. Besides, Gu Mu had given his word that regardless of who it was, as long as they came to him with the token in hand, he would fulfill their demands regardless of what it was. Sun Chang replied, "As a subordinate, I dare not comment on the old master's affairs. I advise you to do the same as well. When you reach Xianyuan Royal City, he'll inform you on the rest." This. Yes. Gu Mu nodded. Not only was this Dingli Realm fellow fearless before the Jizuan Realm Pinnacle Poison Hall Master, he even spoke with a lecturing tone. Grand Elder Wei Yuqing felt so faint-headed that the whites of his eyes were showing. He thought that given Sun Chang's weak cultivation and shabby background, it was unlikely for him to be experienced in this kind of huge matter. Thus, as a Jizuan Realm Pinnacle, the Grand Elder of the Beast Hall, he intended to bring him along and teach him a thing or two. In the end, he became the countryside bumpkin instead. Before the fearsome head of the Poison Hall, he was so scared that he didn't dare to utter a single word. On the other hand, the other party was able to speak nonchalantly, lecturing as he pleased, not giving the slightest consideration to the hall master's face at all. He sure was bold. Where in the world did he get such confidence from? Did he really think that the other party wouldn't dare kill him? Even the composed Gongzi couldn't help but widen his eyes in astonishment. He had seen arrogant people before, but this plump man clearly topped them all. Given the other party's strength, even an apprentice in the Poison Hall could easily extinguish his measly life. Yet he was able to speak fearlessly here. Could his backing truly be that great? Was he certain that Gu Mu wouldn't make a move on him? That's why he was able to remain fearless? "This friend here, may I know how I can address your old master?" Unable to hold himself back anymore, Jin Sohai spoke up. The other party's confidence and boldness had left him puzzled as well. If the other party was an impostor, he would surely show some hints of fear. However, Jin Sohai could sense that this plump man was truly confident and fearless. This meant that he must have something to fall back on. Such boldness was not something an impostor could possess. Audacious. "Who do you think you are?" "I'm speaking to Hall Master Gu Mu. This isn't your place to butt in." Sun Chang's eyebrows shot up furiously. The heck? Grand Elder Wei Yuqing nearly spurted a mouthful of blood. He nearly couldn't hold back his urge to escape. Due to Sun Chang's lack of strength, he was unable to gauge the strength of this elder. However, as soon as Wei Yuqing walked in, he had already noticed the peculiarity with this elder. Given the deeply concealed and exceptionally calm aura of the other party, there was a high chance that he was a transcendent mortal expert. It was precisely due to this elder that he didn't dare to move or speak at all. Yet this fellow berated him. Doomed. Wei Yuqing thought that this should be an easy mission since they only had to look for a person. But from the looks of it now, this simple mission was going to claim his life. He wasn't the only one astounded by this situation. Gongzi and Gu Mu also nearly bit their tongues. How dare a fighter 5 Dandingly Realm weakling speak to a transcendent mortal expert like that? This was no longer boldness, this was madness. "You!" Having been bellowed at, Jin Songhai's face darkened. He flung his sleeves and said, "I am Hall Master Gu Mu's teacher, 4-star Poison Master Jin Songhai. Even so, I still have no rights to speak? Gu Mu's teacher? 4-star Poison Master?" Sun Chang was taken aback. He thought that the other party was just a sidekick, and he didn't expect him to be such a formidable figure. Even so, Sun Chang didn't panic in the least. He simply stared at Jin Songhai with a look of disdain. "So what if you're a 4-star Poison Master? Even 4-star master teachers like Su Fan and Ling Yuheng have to pay respect to the old master in the capacity of a student, not daring to refute even when reprimanded. Why, do you think that you're superior to 4-star master teachers? Trying to scare me? Let me tell you, I, Brother Chang, am no bumpkin." Back then, even the 4-star master teacher Little Su acted subserviently to the old master, not daring to speak loudly or go against his wills. "You are just a mere poison master. No matter how incredible you are, do you think you can match up to the #1 occupation in the world? Didn't I try to spare your pride already? What are you bragging for?" Su Fan? Ling Yuhing? Do you mean Elder Su and Elder Ling from the Myriad Kingdom Alliance's Master-Teacher Pavilion? Jin Sohai was about to erupt from rage when he heard those words. His face immediately warped in shock. As 4-star Master Teachers, Su Fan and Ling Yuhing were famous figures in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance. Not only were they powerful, they also possessed incredible influence as the elders of the Master-Teacher Pavilion. Their standing was comparable even to the nobles of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance's royal family. Yet, these two noble and powerful master teachers actually paid respect to his old master in the capacity of a student. Are you for real? If that's true, then who in the world was his old master? A grave look surfaced on Jin Songhai's face. Chapter 431 Wreaking Havoc in Xianyuan Kingdom 1 2 in 1. You know Little Su and Little Ling? Sun Chang frowned. I've met them once. Hearing him address 4-star master teachers in such a manner, the corner of Jin Songhai's lips twitched. Those two were powerful figures in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance, and yet, in this plump man's mouth, they seemed as though insignificant small fries. His head spun frenziedly. Since you know them, then it won't be a problem to tell you then. Sun Chang's expression finally alleviated slightly upon seeing the fear on the other party's face, and he revealed. The old master, Yang Xian, is a master teacher. As for his rank, he has never revealed it before, so I don't know either. However, Su Shi has once hinted that his capability has definitely reached the level of a 6-star master teacher. A 6-star master teacher? Gongzi, Jin Sohai, Gu Mu, and the others leaped in shock. Even the most formidable master teacher in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance, the head of the Master Teacher Pavilion, Pavilion Master Kong, was only at 4-star pinnacle. He was still a far way off from reaching 5-star, needless to say, 6-star. In the ranking system of a master teacher, the higher the rank, the greater the difference between each ranking. Even though there was only a difference of 2 ranks between 6-star and 4-star pinnacle, there was actually a huge disparity in their cultivation. Even if all of the experts of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance were to band together, they wouldn't be able to match up to an expert of this class. To think that the old master the other party was speaking about was such a formidable existence. It was no wonder why this plump man, despite being only at Dingli realm, could act so fearlessly before them. With such a huge backing, putting aside Jizuan realm pinnacle cultivators and transcendent mortal experts, even the powerful fleeting Cloud sect wouldn't dare offend him. On the other hand, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing's body shuddered, and he nearly fainted from shock. He had never seen the old master that Sun Chang was speaking of, but he had seen the young master. It was the incomparably talented beast tamer Zhang. To that genius, taming a beast was as though a walk in the park, and even the incredibly difficult 10-beasts cage was no more than a slight workout for him. All along, he had thought that beast tamer Zhang might be the direct disciple of some high-ranked beast tamer. He never could have imagined that beast tamer Zhang's teacher would be a 6-star master teacher. It was no wonder why he was so formidable despite his young age. I must hurry back to inform the hall master of the matter, Grand Elder Wei Yuqing thought. That's right. However, the one who wishes to meet Hall Master Gu this time is young Master Zhang Xian. Make some preparations and bring more poison along. At the very least, you won't panic when the time comes. Seeing the fear in everyone's eyes, Sun Chang nodded his head in satisfaction. Who was Yang Shi? As the butler of a master teacher whose ranking potentially exceeded 6-star, even if he didn't possess sufficient strength, he mustn't lose out in his disposition. If he were to be frightened by these small fries, how could he still proudly claim to be the old master's butler? Yes. Upon learning that senior granduncle was a 6-star master teacher, bits and pieces of Gu Mu's interaction with the other party gradually surfaced in his mind. Solving his affliction, helping him tame the lava beast, expelling the contract Gu from the great herb king's body. All of his feats were anything but ordinary. At that moment, he realized that this fellow might not necessarily be bragging. That senior granduncle Yang Shi might truly be a person of such great means. Gongzi, is what he said true? Jin Sohai communicated telepathically with Gongzi. Gongzi might be young and his cultivation could not compare up to him, but he was extraordinarily sharp when it came to discerning people. His tone is confident, and there isn't the slightest hint of a lie in his words. That Yang Shi probably isn't an ordinary figure, Gongzi replied calmly. Actually, it's not difficult to determine whether his words are true or not. Based on his words, his young master is probably at Xianyuan Royal City. If I recall correctly, we have to pass by there to reach Tianwu Royal City, so we can go over to take a look. If the old master he speaks of is truly a 6-star master teacher, then befriending him would surely be beneficial. Gongzi continued. If that's not the case, you can handle the matter as you please. Yes. Jin Sohai hurriedly nodded. That plump man had spoken so confidently that even he was unable to gauge whether the other party's words were true or not. If this plump man was truly the subordinate of a 6-star master teacher, offending him could potentially be calamitous. Getting on bad terms with an expert of that caliber spelled certain doom. In any case, since they were heading for Xianyuan Royal City anyway, they could take a look. Through assessing the young master the other party spoke of, they might be able to determine the authenticity of the other party's words. Upon coming to a decision, the duo decided to speak no more. As all of Gu Mu's possessions were kept in his storage ring, there was nothing for him to prepare. Soon, he was ready to set off. Thus, leaving the poison hall, the group headed in the direction of Xianyuan Royal City. In the chamber, Zhang Xian finally opened his eyes. Such a pity. Lamentation surfaced on Zhang Xian's face. Ever since Sun Quan left, Zhang Xian had been immersing himself into his cultivation. Today was already the 3rd day since then. On the first day, his physical strength reached 30,000 ding. In the next 2 days, he expended a total of 5 droplets of Spirit Beast blood essence, but his strength had only reached 35,000 ding before reaching a bottleneck. There's nothing wrong with my cultivation method, it's the Spirit Beast blood essence that has become ineffective. Exhaling deeply, Zhang Xian shook his head. The Heaven's Path Golden Body 2 Dan was a formula to enhance one's physical body through absorbing Spirit Beast blood essence. As a cultivation technique compiled by the Library of Heaven's Path, it was impossible for there to be any problems with it. At the same time, Zhang Xian could sense that he hadn't reached the cap of his cultivation yet. The problem was that the Spirit Beast blood essence had lost its effectiveness. All Zhang Xian could find in Xianyuan Kingdom's Beast Hall was the blood essence of Grade 1 Spirit Beasts. An item of that rank was useful and powerful when one's cultivation was still weak. However, after reaching the strength comparable to a Jizuan realm advanced stage, the effects of the blood essence had become minimal. Using an analogy, when there is a huge difference in the height of 2 connected ponds, there would be a rapid flow of water from the higher pond to the lower pond. But when their heights finally become equal, the flow of water to the lower pond would stop. This Grade 1 Spirit Beast blood essence was only sufficient for Zhang Xian to reach Shizuan Realm Advanced Stage. At this level, the height between both ponds would be already equal. No matter how much more Grade 1 Spirit Beast blood essence Zhang Xian absorbed, it would be difficult for his strength to progress. Immersing his consciousness into the state of his body, Zhang Xian saw that the blood droplets flowing through his body were round and satiated. They were dense as though mercury, and every single droplet had immense strength packed within it. They were in no way inferior to the Grade 1 Spirit Beast blood essence that Zhang Xian consumed before. Even though Zhang Xian's cultivation had not progressed by much in the past 2 days of cultivation, his efforts were not completely futile. He managed to reinforce his cultivation and adapt to his newfound strength. At the very least, he wouldn't lose control of his strength as he did back then in Master Lu Chen's house. I still have 7 droplets left. I'll give 3 of them to Yuan Tao and find a way to further awaken his emperor's bloodline. As for the last 4, I'll give them to the Howling Firmament Beast. Since there was no point in keeping the Spirit Beast blood essence droplets, he might as well just give them away. Yuan Tao possessed the Emperor's bloodline, and the Spirit Beast blood essence was a treasure that could be used to awaken one's unique constitution. As for the steel fawn howling firmament beast, since Jiang Xian had yet to make a breakthrough in his Jinqi cultivation, he was still unable to trigger a bloodline evolution in it. However, through channeling the energy contained within the spirit beast's blood essence properly, raising its cultivation by 1 or 2 small realms could still be easily done. With the knowledge from the books contained within Xianluo Mountain Range and Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall, coupled with the Eye of Insight, even without utilizing the Library of Heaven's Path, Jiang Xian was still capable of such a feat. In fact, putting aside Jiang Xian's unique abilities as a master teacher, just in terms of the capabilities of a beast tamer, he was superior to typical 3-star beast tamers. Having made up his mind, Jiang Xian immediately got to action. Summoning Yuan Tao and the howling firmament beast over, he distributed the remaining 7 droplets of spirit beast blood essence, and explained the method to using them clearly. After dealing with that matter, he saw Hall Master Xie Jiuchen walking over with a delighted expression. "Beast Tamer Zhang, I've managed to gather all of the books that you require." In exchange for taming the nightmare beast, Jiang Xian demanded compensation in the form of cultivation technique manuals. After 3 days of hard work, the Beast Hall finally managed to gather 1,000 manuals of half Shizuan and Jizuan realm cultivation techniques each. Voila! As Hall Master Xie Jiuchen spoke, he flicked his wrist and 2 huge bookshelves appeared before Jiang Xian. An entire collection consisting of 2,000 books were placed in them. Fearing that Jiang Xian would be unsatisfied, the Beast Hall had used all of its connections and paid a heavy price to gather all of these books from the distinguished clans. As such, most of the cultivation techniques within the pile were actually rather decent. Even though they were only copies, just the ability to gather so many valuable manuals in a short span of 3 days bore testimony to the immense influence the Beast Hall wielded. "You have my gratitude, Hall Master Xie." After a brief glance, Jiang Xian could instantly tell that the Beast Hall must have paid a heavy price for it. Grateful for the favor, Jiang Xian asked, "How is the taming of the nightmare beast coming along?" "That fellow's injuries are starting to recover, and it's no longer as resistant to us as it was. It's all thanks to Beast Tamer Zhang's help." Hall Master Xie Jiuchen nodded with a bright smile on his face. Even though the nightmare beast was reluctant to submit to the Beast Hall, it had already signed a contract to Jiang Xian, and Jiang Xian's words were law to it. Resigning to fate, its attitude toward the Beast Hall improved significantly. As time passed, even if the Beast Hall was unable to tame it completely, as long as they were able to build a good relationship with it, it shouldn't be a problem for them to rely on its help during times of crisis. "That's good." Seeing that everything was going well, Jiang Xian nodded in satisfaction. "Beast Tamer Zhang, you should continue on with whatever you're busy with. I'll take my leave now." Given that Jiang Xian had requested for these cultivation techniques, it was likely he was planning to cultivate or research them. Thus, deciding not to be a nuisance, Hall Master Xie Jiuchen left. As soon as the other party was gone, Jiang Xian immediately slid his fingers through the secret manuals to duplicate them in the Library of Heaven's Path. Compile. With a hushed exclamation, 2 secret manuals appeared in Jiang Xian's mind. They were the Half-Jizuan and Jizuan Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art Manuals. Chuckling softly, Jiang Xian began browsing through them. It didn't take him long to complete the 2 books. Time to try cultivating it. Choosing not to waste his time, Jiang Xian sat down cross-legged, and with a flick of his wrist, a spirit stone appeared in his palms and he started cultivating. He had obtained 10 spirit stones from the Lin Ruotian storage ring, and 5 from winning the championship of the beast taming competition. In other words, there was a total of 15 spirit stones in Jiang Xian's hands at the moment. Back when Liang Qiming and Lin Long were smashed to meat paste by the Book of Heaven's Path, Jiang Xian was unable to find their storage rings. Even though there weren't many of them, he calculated that it should be sufficient to raise his cultivation considerably. Kacha! Kacha! The spirit stones that were sapped dry were reduced to powder. At the same time, an immense amount of spiritual energy surged into Jiang Xian's meridians, causing his cultivation to steadily grow stronger. Boom! Around 10 minutes or so later, his body jolted and his cultivation broke through Zhongshe Realm Pinnacle to reach half Shizuan. Jiang Shu, Mo Tianxue, and the others had cultivated their entire lives, only to be kept out of this level. If they were to know that this fellow had only spent a dozen minutes to accomplish his feat, they would probably die from excessive vomiting of blood. Half Shizuan meant that one already had half a foot into Jizuan realm, and one's level of existence was already undergoing a metamorphosis. Even so, Zhang Xian didn't stop there. He continued absorbing spiritual energy from the spirit stones greedily. Kacha! An hour later, Zhang Xian's body jolted, and he had successfully reached Jizuan realm. Cultivating from Zhongshe Realm Pinnacle to Jizuan realm didn't even take him an hour. As expected of the Heaven's Path divine art. With sufficient spiritual energy, cultivating was no different from eating or drinking. The concept of bottlenecks didn't exist in Zhang Xian's training. Having achieved a breakthrough in his cultivation, Zhang Xian immersed himself in the sensation of having an immense amount of Jinqi flowing through his body. At this moment, just his Jinqi strength itself amounted up to 10,000 ding. He had truly stepped into the top ranks of the fighter realm. 2 hours later, coming to a stop in his cultivation, Zhang Xian sighed. Along with the rise in his cultivation, the demand for the quality and quantity of spirit stones was rising exponentially. In the past, 5 spirit stones were more than sufficient for him to reach Zhongshe Realm Pinnacle. However, at this moment, 15 spirit stones were only barely enough for him to reach Jizuan Realm. It wasn't even sufficient for him to reinforce his cultivation as a Jizuan Realm primary stage cultivator. The main reason why Zhang Xian's spirit stone expenditure was so exaggerated was due to the absurd purity of his Heaven's Path Jinqi, which in turn resulted in an absurdly high demand in the quality of spiritual energy that he absorbed. If it was any other Jizuan Realm expert, a single Lotus spirit stone would be sufficient to raise their cultivation significantly. However, Zhang Xian found himself unable to absorb most of the impure spiritual energy contained within the spirit stone. About 80 to 90% of it went to waste. Even so, the gains were great. Despite still being in Jizuan Realm primary stage, his Jinqi strength had risen by another 5,000 ding to reach 15,000 ding. With such strength, he could easily crush any Jizuan Realm primary stage expert. Along with my physical strength of 35,000 ding, I'll be able to defeat even Jizuan Realm Pinnacle expert. Coupled with the prowess of the Eye of Insight and Library of Heaven's Path, I'll be a match for even a half-transcension expert. Zhang Xian's eyes gleamed in confidence. Adding both his Jinqi strength and physical strength together, his overall might summed up to an astonishing 50,000 ding. This made him significantly stronger than the 40,000 ding of strength that a typical Jizuan Realm Pinnacle cultivator possessed. Pairing that with his Heaven's Path battle techniques and the various abilities of a master teacher, it would be possible for him to defeat even a half-transcension expert. In the 4th day upon reaching Xianyuan Kingdom Beast Hall, as well as the 7th day that Lu Chong fell into coma, Zhang Xian, from a Zhongshe Realm cultivator, finally gained the strength surpassing a Jizuan Realm Pinnacle expert. In other words, he finally possessed sufficient strength to avenge his student. Lu Chong, look at me. I shall avenge you. Zhang Xian's eyes narrowed as he muttered hoarsely. Since he had already achieved sufficient strength, it was time for him to make a move. But before that, he had to gain some understanding of the overall strength of Xianyuan Kingdom first. Thus, walking out of the chamber, Zhang Xian walked to another room, knocked on the door, and entered. How is it? Without wasting any words on pleasantries, Zhang Xian immediately got straight to the point. Before his seclusion, on top of instructing Sun Chang to look for Gu Mu and Hall Master Xie Jiuchen to gather the secret manuals, he had also arranged for Mou to head to Xianyuan Kingdom to look into Ding Mu's affairs. If Zhang Xian wanted to kill the Xianyuan Kingdom's crown prince, he mustn't allow the Beast Hall to hear of it. Otherwise, if word were to leak out and that fellow were to choose to hide in some remote corner in the world, given how large the alliance was, it would be impossible for Zhang Xian to find him. Thus, he decided to entrust this job to Mou. The other party probably had already looked into his affairs, and it wasn't too hard to dig up news of his students. It would be extremely easy for Zhao Ye and the others to be noticed and captured if he were to send them instead. Besides, Mou was a one-star master teacher, and given her standing, it would be relatively easier for her to gather intelligence. I've gathered some news. A slight frown crept onto Mou's forehead as she replied. As soon as Ding Mu returned to Xianyuan Kingdom, he immediately sought refuge in the Master Teacher Pavilion. Ever since then, he hasn't stepped out from there. Master Teacher Pavilion? Zhang Xian's eyebrows shot up. Things always seemed to go in the worst direction. If one wanted to go against the conferred kingdom, the greatest obstacle wasn't the country itself but its Master Teacher Pavilion. The Master Teacher Pavilion had a responsibility to maintain peace and stability in its region, so it rarely allowed anyone to wreak havoc in its territory. Otherwise, given how many experts there were in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance, they could easily travel to a weaker kingdom and proclaim themselves as emperors. With such instability, the kingdom's system would fall apart eventually. While killing the crown prince might result in chaos, it wasn't as destabilizing as killing an emperor. Given Zhang Xian standing as a master teacher, the other party would probably just overlook the matter. However, from the looks of it, he seemed to have been underestimating the severity of the matter. It's said that the head of the Master Teacher Pavilion, Luo Qianhong, is indebted to the royal family, and he's a close friend of Ding Mu as well. As such, he intends to stand up to mediate the conflict. Mou revealed the news that she had just heard. The other party had intentionally put word out, so it wasn't difficult for Mou to hear of it. Humph! Zhang Xian's eyes narrowed and dense killing intent poured out of him. As long as he hands over Ding Mu, I'll allow him to mediate whatever he likes. Mediate? If he were to accept it, then what about Lu Chong? You must be dreaming. Zhang Xian, there's another matter. Seeing the other party's expression, Mou knew that he was determined to kill Ding Mu. A hint of worry flashed across her eyes. Zhang Xian turned around to look at Mou. The Xianyuan Kingdom's emperor, Ding Chong, has announced that he will pass down the throne to Ding Mu. Mou said. Pass down the throne? Zhang Xian's forehead furrowed. If Ding Mu remained as a crown prince, even though killing him might bring some trouble, it wasn't beyond his means to resolve it. However, once he inherits the throne and becomes the emperor, killing him would rattle the foundation of the kingdom. The other conferred kingdoms might strike at this good opportunity. If so, there would be war, and the population would suffer. Given such, the Master Teacher Pavilion would surely step in to stop Zhang Xian. Seems like he's well prepared. As long as Ding Mu was successfully inaugurated as the new emperor, it would be difficult for Zhang Xian to strike. It seemed like that fellow was truly frightened by the sight of Liang Qingming being crushed by the Book of Heaven's path. However, so what if he became the emperor? So what if the Master Teacher Pavilion was going to stop him? Since the other party injured Lu Chong, he should be ready to face his wrath. If the kingdom tries to stop him, he will eradicate the kingdom. If the Master Teacher Pavilion tries to stop him, he will eradicate the Master Teacher Pavilion. At most, he would just have to find some way to form more golden pages. Even if he had to become everyone's enemy, he was determined to avenge his student. Coming to a decision, Zhang Xian asked, when is his inauguration ceremony? The inauguration of an emperor was not a minor affair. The royal family, nobles, envoys from the surrounding conferred kingdoms. There were many people to be invited. Given the huge amount of preparatory work required, it should take some time. It had only been 7 days since that fellow's escape. Even if the announcement of him inaugurating as the emperor was made as soon as he returned, there should still be some time before the inauguration ceremony. It is, today! Mou smiled bitterly. As the princess of a country, as well as a potential emperor candidate groomed by Mo Tianxue, she was well aware of the various formalities required for an inauguration ceremony. The other party should have taken 2 days at minimum to travel from Tianwu Kingdom back to Xianyuan Kingdom. In other words, in just 5 days the other party managed to complete all of the formalities. They sure were efficient. Before the inauguration was held, Ding Mu would continue to hide in the Master Teacher Pavilion. And when he's finally inaugurated as the new emperor, it will become even harder to kill him. Even Mou couldn't have expected that Zhang Xian would force the crown prince of a conferred kingdom up the wall. Today? Flinging his sleeves, Zhang Xian stood up and walked out. What are you going to do? It can't be that. You intend to barge into the inauguration ceremony? Mou's face paled. Indeed. Zhang Xian nodded. But your current strength. Didn't you say that you'll only head over after reaching Jizuan Realm Pinnacle? You're being too reckless like that. Mou hurriedly persuaded. Jizuan Realm Pinnacle? Without turning back, Zhang Xian's aura suddenly burst out. In an instant, it was like a flood dragon was rising to the heavens, or a tiger stepping out of the forest, leaving one feeling helpless and insignificant. I've already reached it! Chapter 432 Wreaking Havoc in Xianyuan Kingdom 2. Mou anxiously shouted. However, halfway through her words, she finally came to a realization and her lips quivered. What did you say? You've already reached it? Going over without reaching Jizuan Realm Pinnacle is courting death. Mou anxiously shouted. However, halfway through her words, she finally came to a realization and her lips quivered. What did you say? You've already reached it? 4 days ago, when this fellow went into seclusion, he was only at Zhongshe Realm Pinnacle. Yet he was saying that he had already reached Jizuan Realm Pinnacle? That is Jizuan Realm. Countless people have been stuck at its gates, unable to surpass the bottleneck their entire lives. Yet in 4 short days. Do you have to be so exaggerated? What in the world did you eat to become so scary? Overwhelmed with shock, Mou hurriedly took a closer look. Feeling the powerful aura the other party was exuding, she trembled. Even though she had finally reached Zhongshe Realm, before him, she couldn't help but feel as helpless as an ant before a wave. You've really reached Jizuan Realm Pinnacle? Mou was stunned. What kind of monster was this? Just a few days ago, when the other party told her that he wanted to exact vengeance, she told him that he had to reach Jizuan Realm Pinnacle to stand a chance. In truth, she had hoped that he would back down after being told the difficulty of the matter. In this way, the other party would give up on these dangerous thoughts and focus on the Master-Teacher tournament instead. Yet, the other party simply made breakthroughs as though they were nothing. In just a few short days, he rose from Zhongshe Realm Pinnacle to Jizuan Realm Pinnacle. It was as if those so-called cultivation bottlenecks were a concept non-existent to him. Could he still be considered as a human? If she were to say that he would at least require the strength of a half-transcension, would he rise to that level as well? She had always been proud of her talent, but why did she seem no different from trash before him? Even the incredible genius Mo Hongyi, compared to him, was nothing at all. It was no wonder why Zhao Ye and the others thought nothing of it when Zhang Xian said that he was going to aim for Jizuan Realm Pinnacle. She'd only realized at this moment that the others weren't just fawning over Zhang Xian. It was the absolute truth, and perhaps, they might even be underestimating him. Wait a moment, I'll go along with you. Multiple emotions flashed across Mou's face, and by the time she regained her composure, that fellow was already far away. She hurriedly rushed over to catch up. You're still far too weak. It'll be better for you to stay here with Zhao Ye and the others. Zhang Xian stopped and waved her away. Even though Mou had improved swiftly during this period of time, breaking through the Zhongshe Realm barrier, her strength was still far from enough to match up to those experts in Xianyuan Kingdom. Bloodshed couldn't be avoided in this confrontation. Zhang Xian was confident in holding his ground, but it would be difficult for him to protect the others on top of that. I am a Master Teacher of the Master Teacher Pavilion. On top of that, I am a princess of Tianwu Kingdom as well. As long as I don't make a move, they won't do anything to me. Mou hurriedly said. As she spent more time with the young man before her, she gradually found it harder and harder to part with him. For some reason, knowing that he was headed for danger, she wanted to follow him as well so that she could lend her assistance if something were to really happen. All right then. Later on, just remain on the back of the Steel Fang Howling Firmament Beast. If there's any sign of danger, leave straight away. Seeing the worry on the other party's face, Zhang Xian hesitated for a moment before eventually nodding his head. He felt that it was his responsibility to exact vengeance for Lu Chong given that he was his teacher, but this had nothing to do with MOU at all. He didn't want his own affairs to result in any harm to the other party. All right. Knowing that this was the other party's bottom line, MOU agreed in gratitude. Reaching the courtyard, they climbed onto the steel Fang Howling Firmament Beast, and with a roar, the latter soared into the skies. After consuming the Spirit Beast's blood essence and driving the spiritual energy using the method Zhang Xian gave him, this fellow made a breakthrough once more, reaching Jizuan Realm Intermediate Stage. At its current strength, it was on par with Ding Nu's gold-scaled Lightning Beast. Given the short proximity between Beast Hall and the capital, it didn't take long for them to arrive at their destination. Today is Crown Prince Ding Mu's inauguration ceremony. With such a genius becoming our emperor, it seems like we can finally hold our head high before other conferred kingdoms. Indeed, despite only being 32 this year, he is already a 3-star formation master and a Jizuan Realm advanced stage expert. Throughout the entire history of Xianyuan Kingdom, there have only been a handful of people who managed to reach Jizuan Realm before 30. Given his talents, he will surely be able to reach Jizuan Realm Pinnacle in less than 10 years. With sufficient luck, he might even be able to reach half Transcension in his lifetime. Crown Prince Dingmu has always been my idol, as well as my goal. I heard that today's inauguration ceremony will be held at the Heaven's Altar. I must go over to have a look. Wait for me, I want to go as well. Walking along the wide streets of Xianyuan Royal City, such discussions could be heard all around. Before Crown Prince Dingmu's inauguration had even started, everyone was already thrilled. He sure knows how to make his move. Zhang Xian's complexion darkened further. Perhaps, the other party couldn't stand the idea of a threat looming in the shadows. Thus, he decided to make a huge fuss of this celebration to bait him out. Without a doubt, an impeccable trap must have already been set up at the Heaven's Altar, just waiting for him to walk into it. If Zhang Xian were to really make a move, the other party would surely mobilize the entire army of the kingdom to crush him. However, so what if he had set up an impeccable trap? Since the other party dared to lay his hands on his student, then he should be prepared for the most brutal vengeance. With a grim expression, Zhang Xian stepped onto the back of the Howling Firmament Beast and flew toward the Heaven's Altar. Xianyuan Kingdom, Greenleaf Pavilion. This was the information hub of Xianyuan Kingdom. There were countless information dealers and clients walking in and out of here daily. It was even more bustling than some of the massive markets in the city. In here, one could buy all kinds of information, as well as sell exclusive news. The Greenleaf Pavilion would compile all of this news based on their value, and create a ranking on them. The rumors that the scrolls of the green leaves resound across the capital didn't come from thin air. In the past, Hall Master Feng had mentioned the ranking of items that savage beasts were fond of. Even though it was an unofficial ranking made by beast tamers, it had the shadows of the Greenleaf Pavilion in it. If not for this massive information network pulling its connections, such private news wouldn't have spread so far. Not only so, it had also created a ranking of the experts in the kingdom in the form of the Green Leaf Board and Young Leaf Board. Only the most powerful experts in the kingdom were on the Green Leaf Board. Even the head of the Master Teacher Pavilion, Half-Transcension Pavilion Master Luo Qianhong, was only in 3rd place on the Green Leaf Board. As for the Young Leaf Board, recorded on it were the most powerful young geniuses. And of the Young Leaf Board, Crown Prince Dingmu was listed on the very top. Pavilion Head, why is the Crown Prince listed on the top of the board? His strength is only at Jizuan Realm Advanced Stage, while the second-placed Ling Luoya was clearly already at Jizuan Realm Pinnacle. In one of the executive rooms in the Green Leaf Pavilion, 2 figures were seated face to face. The one speaking was a gray-robed elder. He was staring at the ranking board on the table in incomprehension. Elder Liao Qingxuan. Opposite to him was a white-robed elder. He had eyebrows that were slightly arched upward, snowy hair, and eyes that were sharp as though lightning. With a single look, one could tell that he was an extraordinarily intelligent person. Pavilion Head Dai Feng. The Young Leaf Board ranks the young geniuses based on their strength. Even though Ling Luoye's cultivation was above that of the Crown Prince, if a battle were to break out between the two of them, it was more likely that the Crown Prince would emerge victorious. Pavilion Head Dai Feng chuckled. Oh? Elder Liao Qingxuan was clearly doubtful of the latter's words. You don't believe me? I'll explain it to you then. Seeing the doubt in the other party's eyes, Pavilion Head Dai Feng calmly picked up the teacup on the table, scraped the floating tea leaves on top and said, Ling Luoye is indeed talented to have reached Jizuan realm pinnacle at 34. However, if a person's cultivation rises too quickly, all kinds of problems will occur. Firstly, his cultivation technique, Profound Ripple Art, is a water element cultivation technique. As such, it lacks offensive power. On top of that, his strongest battle technique, Frigid Water Dance, was also relatively lacking in power. As such, he could only be considered as average among those of the same cultivation realm. On the other hand, Crown Prince Dingmu. Firstly, I believe you should have heard of the royal family hunting down a wounded spirit beast. Back then, they procured quite a substantial amount of spirit beast blood essence. The royal family possesses an extremely powerful physical body cultivation technique known as Spirit Blood Body Nourishment Formula. Anybody that was tempered by it would become incredibly resilient and powerful. Other than that, the cultivation technique he cultivates, Might of the Celestial Bear, grants him extraordinary strength. On top of that, he also learned the Heaven-Shattering Fist, which was known for its aggressiveness. Putting aside how none of those in the same cultivation realm would be able to match him, it wouldn't be hard to face those of higher cultivation realm than him as well. But of course, most importantly of all, as a 3-star formation master, he had at least 7 to 8 grade 3 formation plates on him. If he were to throw all of them out, it would be difficult for even a transcendent mortal expert to kill him, needless to say, a Jizuan realm pinnacle cultivator. Thus, without doubt, he was worthy of being in first place. At which, Pavilion Head Dai Feng turned to look at the other elder with a wide grin. How is it? Do you still think that Ling Luoye can defeat him? After a moment of contemplation, Elder Liao Qingxuan shook his head. Impossible. Given the Crown Prince Dingmu's powerful cultivation technique, extraordinary talents, and numerous aces, even despite his cultivation realm being only that of Jizuan realm advanced stage, probably not even Jizuan realm pinnacle experts would be willing to offend him. It's due to all of this that he was ranked at first place of the Young Leaf Board. He's deserving of his position on the Young Leaf Board. Putting aside Ling Luoye for the moment, there won't be anyone who could match him in the past 500 years, and I believe there won't be anyone like him in the next 500 years either. Pavilion Head Dai Feng chuckled. Indeed. Crown Prince Dingmu is truly a talented person. Elder Liao Qingxuan felt awed by the insight. It's about time for you to change your method of address. It's going to be Emperor Dingmu from today onward. Pavilion Head Dai Feng reprimanded with a smile. You're right, it's Emperor Dingmu. No wonder everyone is thrilled about this inauguration. With such a genius leading Xianyuan Kingdom, its national strength will only continue to grow further. Soon, among conferred kingdoms, no one would dare offend us. Recalling the sight outside, Liao Qingxuan commented. A nation being weak wasn't just a problem of its weak military. More importantly, it was related to the character and attitude of its leader. If its leader was a talented and headstrong person, the nation would surely grow strong. Indeed. He'll become a much better sovereign than old Emperor Ding Chong. At the very least, his reputation should strike fear in the surrounding kingdoms, and those ambitious kingdoms would be hesitant to make their move. Seems like Xianyuan Kingdom is about to usher in a new era of unparalleled growth. Pavilion Head Dai Feng was filled with anticipation for the future. Elder Liao Qingxuan nodded in agreement. Just as he was about to say something, the ground suddenly shook and a deafening sound resounded across the entire capital. Dingmu, I, Zhang Xian, am here. Get out here to face your death. Face your death? Someone has barged into the Heaven's altar during the inauguration ceremony. To kill Emperor Dingmu? Pavilion head Dai Feng and elder Liao Qingxuan were dumbstruck. Chapter 433. Baichen the duo had just said that with Ding Mu's inauguration, no one would dare to wreak havoc in Xianyuan Kingdom anymore. When they heard this stark provocation, they felt a stinging sensation on their cheeks, as though someone had just struck them. What was going on? They hurriedly stood up and looked out of the windows. The Green Leaf Pavilion was a tall infrastructure, and from the executive room, they could see the vast field around the Heaven's Altar. The field was filled with a massive crowd, and in the air, a young man stood on the head of a massive howling firmament beast. The young man was currently staring coldly down upon the inauguration ceremony below. From the looks of it, he isn't even 20 yet. However, given how deep his aura is, his cultivation has probably already reached Jizuan realm pinnacle. When did such an expert appear in the city? The mouths of the duo twitched. They had just said that Crown Prince Ding Mu's feat was unsurpassed in the past 500 years, and would remain to be so in the next 500, and at the next moment this fellow appeared. Wasn't this too coincidental? Zhang Xian. If I recall correctly, a few days ago, a beast tamer going by this name won the beast taming competition. However, that person's cultivation should only be at Zhongshe realm pinnacle? Why is his cultivation suddenly at Jizuan realm pinnacle? A beast tamer was bellowing for the inaugurating crown prince to face his death. What was going on? The two heads of the largest information network in Xianyuan Kingdom stared at one another in frenzy. In the house on the back of a flying massive savage beast, a few people stood by the window. Standing at the very front was a white-robed young man. With his hands behind his back, he carried an ethereal aura. Gu Mu stepped forward and announced, "Gongzi, Xianyuan Royal City is right ahead of us." Not too far away, a massive city came into sight. It extended for several hundred kilometers, and its thick city walls were connected to the meandering mountains. It resembled a sleeping behemoth. The layout of this city is indeed interesting. To think that it would be a formation! Opening his fan, the Gongzi chuckled. Those within might not realize anything, but from above, it was clear that the city that was connected with the mountains appeared to be aligned with some formation theories. There seemed to be a slight gathering of spiritual energy in the region. The Xianyuan royal family is a clan of formation masters, and the generations of emperors had been skilled formation masters themselves. In this field, Crown Prince Ding Mu seemed to be an exceptional genius. Gu Mu explained. "Pui, genius my head!" Before Gu Mu could finish his words, a disdainful voice sounded. Turning to take a look, they saw Sun Chang with a contemptuous expression on his face. "You disagree with my words?" Knowing that there was a high chance that the other party was a butler of a 6-star master teacher, Gu Mu dared not get angry. Rather, he gazed at the other party with a look of bewilderment. This Ding Mu, having offended the young master, probably won't live for long. In terms of talent, who could match up to the young master? Sun Chang's lips curled up in pride. Sun Chang had witnessed how Ding Mu's subordinates severely wounded Lu Chong, and he knew that the other party's actions had piqued the young master's killing intent. While the young master was a headstrong person, he had the capability to match it. Even without the assistance of the old master, the young master's wrath wasn't something that the mere Xianyuan Kingdom could withstand. In Sun Chang's eyes, there was no genius in the world who could even compare to the pinky of the young master. Genius? Stop bringing shame to the word. Is this senior uncle very talented? Gu Mu asked. Of course. The young master isn't 20 yet, but he's already a 3-star painter, 2-star master teacher, 2-star beast tamer, and on top of that, he was recruited as an elder of Myriad Kingdom Alliance Physician Guild. Do you think that a fellow like Ding Mu could match up to the young master's talents? Sun Chang was filled with pride. The reticent Gongzi standing by the window suddenly turned around and asked, "Isn't your young master from Tianwu Kingdom? How did he become an elder of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance? How could a small figure from Tianwu Kingdom become an elder of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance Physician Guild? Who do you think the young master is? He solved all of the problems written on the Physician Guild's wall of dilemma in a single taking." Among those questions, there are even problems that the physicians from the Myriad Kingdom Alliance Physician Guild are unable to solve. As such, in awe of the young master's capability, they decided to recruit him as an elder. Sun Chang harumphed. He liked speaking of the young master's accomplishments. He was just about to brag more about the various feats the young master had done when the calm Gongzi's face paled and his body trembled. Isn't your young master, called Zhang Xian? If I recall correctly, isn't the one who solved the questions on the wall of dilemma called Lu Qing? Oh, Lu Qing is an alias that the young master used during the 2-star master-teacher examination, Sun Chang said. Zhang Xian is Lu Qing? Your young master? Gongzi and Jin Sohai glanced at one another in shock. Indeed, Sun Chang nodded. Since he's a physician, why is he involved with the matters of poison masters as well? These two occupations are contradictory to one another. A moment later, Gongzi asked once more. A master teacher could take on many occupations at once. Initially, upon hearing that Yang Xian was a skilled poison master, as well as Gu Mu's senior granduncle, they thought that Zhang Xian would be a skilled poison master as well. But if that was the case, how could the other party be a skilled physician too? The young master is a talented individual. What is bizarre about him mastering two occupations at once? The responsibility of a physician is to bring salvation to the world, and only those with benevolence in their hearts are suited for the occupation. On the other hand, the poison masters concoct poison for malicious means, and those who take on this occupation tend to be callous. Given how the two occupations are at the opposite end of the spectrum, could it be that your young master has dissociative identity disorder? Gongzi was still baffled by this matter. Given how physicians and poison masters stood at the opposite ends of the spectrum, he couldn't understand how one could take on these two occupations simultaneously. What's so bizarre about that? Our young master is normally a gentle person, and he rarely argues with others. Even though he's capable of utilizing poison, unlike other poison masters, he doesn't kill everyone that he gets into a dispute with. On the contrary, he tends to resolve problems through reason and seeks to win over others via morals. Upon learning of the other party's doubts, Sun Chang glanced at the other party contemptuously. Expert? If you're truly an expert, how could you not know this? How embarrassing! Just as Sun Chang was about to continue introducing the various strengths of Zhang Xian, a deafening voice suddenly sounded from the city. Ding Mu, I, Zhang Xian, am here. Get out here to face your death. Zhang Xian? Upon hearing these words, the group on the back of the savage beast fell silent. Everyone's gazes hurriedly turned to Sun Chang. This is the man that you said is gentle, rarely argues with others, and uses morals to win others over? It seemed like the other party had already slaughtered his way to the other party's doorstep. What is he up to? Wei Yuqing was stunned. He was just gone for a few days. Why was Beast Tamer Zhang wreaking havoc in the royal palace, even threatening to kill the crown prince? Grand Elder Wei, let's go over to take a look. Of the crowd, only Sun Chang understood the abrupt situation. Knowing that there was no time to be wasted, he hurriedly instructed. It seemed like the young master couldn't wait any longer, so he decided to make his move today. All right. Knowing how urgent the matter was, Wei Yuqing tapped his feet and the savage beast dashed straight toward the direction of the voice. Standing at the very center of the heavens altar, Ding Mu was just about to undergo the final rituals to be officially inaugurated as the emperor when he heard those words. For a moment he was dumbstruck. He thought about the various forms that the other party may exact vengeance on him: assassination, life and death duel, poisoning. But one thing he never expected was for the other party to do it so openly. Before the innumerable civilians, master teachers, officials, and nobles of the Xianyuan kingdom, the other party fearlessly rushed here and declared brazenly that he would kill him. Was this fellow insane? This was Xianyuan kingdom, his home ground. Putting aside the troops, there were many formations laid out all over as well. To dash right here fearlessly, was the other party really a genius 2-star master teacher? This is the master teacher who wishes to kill you. A middle-aged man walked over. The head of the master teacher pavilion, Luo Qianhong. In the past few days, Ding Mu had been staying in the master-teacher pavilion. He had told him about the recent events, and it seemed that a master-teacher desired for his death. Initially, he thought that Ding Mu was just overthinking it, but to think that the other party really came knocking on. Ding Mu nodded. Clasping his fist, he said, "It's a misunderstanding. I hope that Brother Luo can mediate the situation for me. The other party is just a mere 2-star master teacher. He won't dare to defy my words." Luo Qianhong waved his hands. There was strict ranking hierarchy to master teachers. 2-star master teachers possessed incredible standing in the kingdom, but to a 3-star intermediate master teacher like him, the other party's standing didn't mean much. In fact, the other party had to pay respect to him in the position of a student, otherwise he could report the matter to the master-teacher pavilion and have the other party's master-teacher license revoked. "I'll thank you in advance then." Seeing that the head of the master-teacher pavilion was going to stand up for him, Ding Mu heaved a sigh of relief. "Bai Chen, go over and issue a stern warning to that young man. Don't allow him to delay His Highness's inauguration ceremony. If he doesn't know what's good for him, I permit the use of violence to deal with him." Luo Qianhong instructed one of his subordinates. "Yes." A master teacher dressed in a long robe walked out of the crowd. This master teacher seemed to be in his 40s, and his eyes were gleaming with spirit. On the emblem pinned on his chest, there were 3 bright stars. He was a 3-star primary master teacher. His cultivation was also at Jizuan Realm Pinnacle. Upon receiving the orders, Master Teacher Bai Chen turned to look at Zhang Xian above and frowned. "Today is Crown Prince Ding Mu's inauguration ceremony, so I ask of you not to cause trouble and leave immediately. If so, we will not pursue this matter. Otherwise, don't blame me for getting nasty. I'll leave after killing Ding Mu." Couldn't be bothered to waste his words, Zhang Xian leaped down the back of the howling firmament beast. Even though he didn't possess any technique capable of breaking his fall, given his Jizuan realm cultivation and powerful physical body, an altitude of 12 meters didn't mean much to him. Whoo! Landing on the stairs of the heavens altar, the ground below cracked. After which, without any hesitation, he began walking up. "I am 3-star Master Teacher Bai Chen. As a Master Teacher, you should be well aware of the rules. A lower-ranked Master Teacher has to unconditionally obey the commands of higher-ranked Master Teacher. It can't be that you are intending to defy my words?" Upon seeing the young man disregarding him, Bai Chen's complexion turned awful. He immediately stepped forward to block Zhang Xian's path. He heard the conversation between the pavilion master and Ding Mu, and he knew that the other party was a Master Teacher as well. A mere 2-star primary master teacher should bow respectfully upon seeing a 3-star primary master teacher like him. Yet, to dare to disregard him altogether, how brazen! Scram! Seeing the men from Xianyuan Kingdom Master Teacher Pavilion blocking his path, Zhang Xian bellowed coldly. You're courting death!" He thought that after revealing his identity, the other party would retreat out of fear. Yet, the other party dared to ask him to scram. The arrogance of the other party caused Bai Chen's face to turn livid, and he nearly erupted from rage. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.